Welcome, wrestling fans, to This Week in Wrestling, where we talk about all promotions, not just one. We will talk about AEW, WWE, New Japan, everything basically except for Impact, because who the fuck cares about Impact? Sorry, guys. This week I have Canadian Basement, JP and Heather, Dory, Bobbit, and Trek on the call. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. I am ready
to
talk wrestling.
Good.
I have the worst wrestling hangover.
I don't have a hangover.
I don't have a
called
hangover.
anger.
I'm ready for more.
I'm called anger. I am angry at wrestling fans because they're fucking idiots.
Well, yeah. Hence why I
Well,
said
I'm not even gonna call them wrestling fans. I'm gonna call them.
I'm doing good. I'm just I'm just waiting for more wrestling, like always.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, Basement. What do you got to say? Say it.
I'm fucking excellent, man. This week has been pretty goddamn good for wrestling. So I've had a good week in wrestling for This Week in Wrestling.
I have too. I've had a pretty good. I've enjoyed this week. I just didn't watch wrestling on Tuesday and Thursday because who gives a fuck about Impact, like Gina said, and who gives a fuck about NXT UK because there's. But anyway, yeah. So let's start off with Raw, and we'll talk about the major things that happened on Raw. It was their season premiere, right? Or was that the week before?
No, that was this week.
Okay.
It was this week.
Why did they do season premieres?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. It's just something they have always done it. Always done it. And to be honest with you, the season premiere, really, the very first show happened January 4th of 1995. So why is the premiere happening in September?
Because there's 2 different seasons per year.
Yeah.
No, there's only one season.
There's fall.
There's 4 seasons in a year. Fuck's sake.
No, but for TV,
fucking smartass. On TV, there's two seasons in a year.
Yeah, but they only do one season premiere, though. That's the thing. That's the weird thing about WWE. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know why they do that if it didn't start until January. But
during the fall, they have the season premieres or series premieres during the fall, and that's the big ratings.
It's a fake hype train.
They have more to compete with, right? They have everything that's starting for sports. You have hockey, you have football, and then you have all the sitcoms and everything coming back. So maybe that's why they do it in the fall.
Well,
it's just a name attached to the same Raw. Like it's that whatever. Fuck, eat my ass.
It is, and it just gives them a reason to bring back nostalgia.
Yep.
That's the only reason they do it. But the only real thing we're going to talk about the shit ending. Opening was pretty good. I'm going to. Here's a thumbs down on this though. I did not like the stage. The stage looked like a fucking half pipe that Tony Hawk has in his house.
It looks like a mix. Like from straight on, it looks like a half pipe, but like from the side, it looks like a laptop.
It could be a laptop. I'm not. It seemed too busy to me. They were trying to be
over dramatic.
No, it's not even that. They're trying to be futuristic.
Yeah,
which they don't need to be.
But the only thing, like Basement said the other night, the only thing that's good about the stage is that like it makes it easier for like the
transition. I get that.
Into the actual like ramp.
Right.
And they've been using the ramp a lot more in recent years, so I know that they're going to incorporate that more into entrances. It'll look okay over time. I mean, the last one wasn't anything special. It's something different. Not that I'm in love with it. It's probably the worst stage that they have going right now. Yep. But we'll see how they use it, I think. For me, I want to see how they use it.
How are you going to interact with that? Like, there's nothing really to
You're going to slide down it.
I'm waiting for somebody to literally fucking slide down that motherfucker.
Take this ball up to the top of the ramp and just go down.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, no falls count anywhere. Matches come in anytime up.
I have No idea what you just said, Trek.
He said they're gonna climb up and
I
just
said
slide
Jeff
down.
Hardy's going to take his car to the top of the ramp and just go down.
He's not gonna make it to the top of the ramp, drunk as fuck.
Jeff
He's gonna
Hardy
crash
is
right through
going
it.
to take his car to the top of the ramp
And just slide down.
and just slide down. Shut up.
Yep.
After he's killed like 3 innocent people while driving.
I mean, I do want to say, speaking of Jeff Hardy, did you guys see Matt Hardy's tweet today?
I did not.
Yeah, I did. And that's a
Yeah.
good way to handle it.
Yeah, he basically said that like he loves his brother and that he's had talks with his brother, and basically in the end Jeff's actions are his own actions and he needs to take control of his own life,
He's good.
and it has nothing to do with Matt.
Yeah, he's saying he's gonna focus on his family and
Yeah,
his
like
immediate
Matt
family
basically
of
just
his-
said that he's going to support his brother and he's going to hope his brother gets help, but he needs to focus on his family.
That is true. Jeff Hardy needs to. I don't know what Jeff Hardy's issue is. I mean,
He needs
I know,
rehab.
I know what he's gone through rehab. He's gone through rehab
I mean,
like 4 or 5 fucking
he needs a
times.
fucking therapist.
I think it's with Jeff Hardy, and it's kind of like personified in the way he wrestles. He
You
kind
know
of
what it is?
needs that he doesn't like feeling just normal or regular.
Yeah,
Do you know what
he's like the oddball out or whatever, but there's a reason why he is that way, and I think it's what's fucking him up. So I think he needs a therapist.
No, do you know what it is?
Hmm.
Matt's not there. Matt is his rock.
Yeah,
Matt Matt can keep him. Matt Hardy and you can see it. Matt Hardy can keep Jeff Hardy straight.
yeah,
And I think Jeff Hardy being away from Matt is killing Jeff, and it's causing him to slip. Now that being said, where's his wife? And I'm not saying it's not her fault. Before anybody comes at me, he shouldn't be relying on Matt. He should be relying on his wife. And I'm not. What I mean by that is Jeff needs to stop relying on he has somebody there, his wife, to help him through this. And from what I'm gathering, I'm just assuming here, he will not, for some reason, let her help him. And I have a funny feeling that's what's going on with him. I don't know what.
I don't know, but he needs to get some help before he ends up killing somebody.
For himself.
Yeah, he needs to find a replacement for the void he's now filling with alcohol. And I mean, there's one thing to be like drunk or addicted to something, but like you still have the wherewithal to not drive and do it. He's got all the money in the world to not need to drive and do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wants to go ahead and get hammered all the time, go ahead, but don't fucking endanger other people while you do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
I agree.
There's no excuse for that, in my
You
honest
are correct. You are correct. I agree with you 100%. But he needs to stop relying on. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Matt
I wish
has,
the best for him.
Matt
I
has
hope
his
he's
own
well.
family to worry about. Plus, he is
Going to be a new father again soon.
that, and two, I think he works for WWE. I think isn't he like a producer or something?
Yes, and he still performs at live shows.
So there you go.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
and the thing is, on top of that, Matt is also a recovering addict himself.
Of
So like
course, of
Jeff
course.
needs to stop relying on him simply because the last thing anybody wants to see is Matt get drugged back down again. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I'm not saying that would happen.
Right.
Now, I
But-
posted it in the chat, but I said, like, do you think that anybody is as hard on Jeff Hardy as they are on the fucking Jimmy or Jeff, whichever Uso? In terms of, like, the media and stuff, there hasn't been a lot of backlash on Jeff Hardy. Uso was, like, killed with it.
Mention that,
Yeah.
and I don't think that, and this is the thing. I don't think they're being punished. They are actually helping Naomi deal with some issues right now.
But I'm not talking about the
I know
WWE
that,
aspect of
but-
them punishing. It's more like the outrage
Just the
from
media
social
outrage.
media.
No, I
It
get
has
that.
it's a double standard between those two, which is odd to me.
Yeah. Well, I think like with Jeff Hardy, everybody like he's such an icon that like everybody immediately wants to jump to his defense. But in this case, like Jeff Hardy is my all-time favorite superstar, but in this case, you cannot jump to his defense. He is 100% in the wrong. He needs some help before he ends up killing himself or somebody else.
Yep.
And Alpha, I'm not talking about what we're hearing now. It's more like when the moment happened, how much outcry there was about WWE needs to put their foot down, punch this guy. Like there was so much of that.
Yeah.
More people are much more forgiving of Jeff Hardy. So
Well,
it is what it is. It's a double standard in the
I
Twitter
don't
sphere and
double
media in
standard.
general.
I'm telling you now, he needs
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. He's been through this before many times. So there's avenues open to him, but I can understand. I can see where he's coming from for certain things. Like I said before, like he has been an adrenaline junkie in terms of wrestling, and when he doesn't have something else taking up his time, he probably gets sick of just being doing nothing as a normal human being.
But the thing is, he's not just. I'm sorry, Tori.
I was gonna say, if he wants to get wasted, that's 100% on him. He's a big compound, do it at home. I don't know, like beat up trees. I don't care, but don't get in a vehicle and take the lives of somebody else.
No, Jeff Hardy Jeff Hardy does not need to sit at home and get drunk. He's an addict. He needs to get help.
Well, the thing is, Jeff Hardy is an adrenaline junkie, and the sad thing is, it's not just regarding wrestling. I mean, if you guys ever watched any of his DVDs and stuff back in the day, like when he wasn't wrestling, he actually was dirt biking. He was like motocrossing in his backyard. That's how he ended up breaking his leg that time. With him, it's anything with adrenaline, and
I think it's just he doesn't like the idea. Like he doesn't like being not impacted in some way, whether it's by adrenaline, by risk, or by alcohol, or by drugs. He's always kind of putting himself in a place where he can't be just normal.
The thing is, this happens with a lot of people actually, and it's you end up getting to the point where like you start risking things more and more and more because you need that something to fill that void, and there's some kind of void that he needs to have filled with other than narcotics or alcohol. Right now, he filled it with narcotics for a little while, and then he got clean from that, and then he started filling it with adrenaline type shit, motocross and shit. Then he kind of stopped that a little bit. Now he's filling it with alcohol. He needs to find a happy medium.
And my worry with Jeff Hardy is at his age, being pulled over for DUI, and being closer and closer to retirement, not having your life filled by work of a sort week in, week out. He needs to get like transition into a permanent job as something to do with like training or some thing in WWE or a wrestling promotion that forces him to be active, 50 hours a week or something like that. Because him sitting at home is going to equate to him being dead sooner rather than later after he retires.
I agree. He'll commit suicide, and I hate to say that. And
he'll commit suicide through drug use, but probably not meaning to, but always, pushing the envelope a bit further and further.
Yeah.
I agree. It was a good discussion. I almost forgot to bring that up. I had thoughts of bringing it up. Thanks for bringing that up, Gene. I did want to talk about Jeff Hardy. Because, look, if you need help, get help. Don't just start drowning your sorrows. And I think the reason why he is using is because he's not wrestling right now.
I agree 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And like Gina said, he is an adrenaline junkie. So he's
he needs to fill the void with something.
I'm going to get drunk and then drive because it's an adrenaline rush. For some reason, for him it is. It never was for me. I was scared fucking shitless when I did it. But
I've done it a couple times. Never when I was younger, and I'll never do it again.
Yeah, I will not drink and drive anymore.
I did when I was younger, and the last time I did, being a fucking idiot, I almost ran off the road. So that right there was enough.
But back onto the show. I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent, but it's okay. It is okay. So Raw ended. We had the major things happen. Was Rock and Ray.
Yes, best opening ever for me personally because Ray got
opening to that show was fucking the bomb because Rey Mysterio got fucking destroyed. I don't know. It made Lesnar look like a legit fucking badass. It made him look.
After what happened with him and Seth Rollins, this is this is the unfortunate side to the Seth Rollins victory over him.
Mhm.
That has to happen for them to use him the only way they can use Brock.
Mhm.
They have to put him out there destroying somebody.
Yep.
And it kind of led into where we go with SmackDown. We'll talk
Yep.
about
And
later,
we'll
but
talk
it
about
was.
we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
And this is why at first I was like, I love it because I'm not a huge Rey Mysterio fan, and I loved Brock beating the fuck out of him, and I loved him beating up his son. I loved him just
Well,
beating
the
the shit out of his
funny
soul.
thing is, I think if I can remember correctly, it was like, I think it was the week that they said Brock will be at Raw. Like, if I remember correctly, Baseman said he should come out. If Rey Mysterio comes out, Brock Lesnar should beat the fuck out of Rey Mysterio. Just fucking destroy him. Well, he did. So his dream came true. I think that's why Baseman said
It was, and the only knock I had on it at the moment was it didn't make sense, but it does eventually. So no knock at all.
no, not at all. The ending segment, the middle of the show was it was okay. The show was okay. The only problem that I had with the entire show is that it was chaotic and was all over the place. The wrestling was decent. The wrestling's gotten better in WWE. It's the storylines that are killing the wrestling. And I think it's going to pan itself out sooner or later. Is WWE going to flip a 180? No, they're not. They're never going to. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I said it last week, and I'll continue to say it until people understand. What you have for wrestling fans. Now, I will say this. What SmackDown did last night, I never thought was going to happen. Their viewership was at 4.2 million at peak. I never thought 4 million fans would watch wrestling.
And you got to think, that's without Dish Network or Sling TV either.
That also being said, there is tens of millions of people that watch WWE, just not in the United States. Well, they might. They just watch it on DVR or watch it on
Network
Hulu.
after.
Watch it on the network a month later when it comes on there. So for people to say that nobody watches WWE, I don't think that's entirely
Accurate.
true. Because there's 4 million people that watched SmackDown last night. So if there's those 4 million people watching SmackDown, did they do enough? We'll talk about it, but did they do enough? So don't answer this. Just remember that this question is there. Did they do enough to gain more viewers? That's the question.
Well, and here's the big thing too. You got to remember, a lot of people don't have cable. A lot of people in America are living on antennas. So, like,
that could be a factor as
I mean,
well.
I know me personally, I can't, like, I watch British USA, so like
There's a
so,
lot of
like,
numbers lost into the void.
Mhm.
Let's just be
exactly.
honest.
And now that they brought SmackDown onto Fox, I can catch Fox with my antennas. So I'm having a feeling that that's adding a lot of numbers right there.
Yep.
I agree.
So, but
It's more accessible.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
I did want to say before we move anywhere else, Raw itself. I mean, this is, and I looked at most of the shows this week this way. Raw is in a place where they're about to hit the reset button on Raw, just like they are on SmackDown.
Yep.
It might be a bit more of a soft reset on SmackDown, but Raw is definitely hitting the reset button with the draft. The reason it's
You're-
chaotic and like all over the place is because they really don't care that much. This is the last show before a brand split, before a Hell in a Cell that they put very little effort into outside of a couple matches.
Mhm.
They threw together a couple matches. The one thing I'm disappointed with Raw about is not at least they might have made a couple storylines that could work out at Hell in a Cell, but they haven't advertised them to be on Hell in a Cell.
Correct.
That's what I would have used this Raw for Hell in a Cell, and I didn't really see a lot of that.
Oh, I agree. The real downside to Raw, and this is where this show was shit. was the end of the show when Rusev took on Seth Rollins and Lana and Lashley came out. Well, Lashley came out and was looking at Rusev, and Rusev was looking at Lashley. So Rusev knew it was going on. And this is a storyline, people. This is a storyline, and it's stemming. This is the thing, and I'm gonna say this, and everybody's gonna be like, "Did they really?" Oh fuck yeah! The Attitude Era. Everybody's always clamoring, "Well, I want Attitude Era to return. I want Attitude Era to return." WWE's listening to you. You got exactly what they used to do during the Attitude Era. That is the kind of shit that you got mixed in with good storylines.
They're also too trying to blur the lines. Like in this day and age, social media, it's really hard to do that. But all over social media, like they had them do the blue carpet together. Like they're trying to put a lot of effort into the storyline, which I can kind of respect a little bit. Where they're trying to keep the kayfabe at least on Twitter.
ECW did these type of storylines too, so it's not just WWE. Like all of wrestling in that era did these storylines. Yes. I'm not a fan of them. I never was a fan of them. It seems kind of forced to me. Rusev, and I want to touch on this really quickly. He looks like a fucking piece of shit. The guy comes out, he looks like he lost the wrong weight. I don't know what it is, but he looks disgusting. He looks like Clark Gable decided to sell cars.
Right. I don't know. But again, that is the kind of shit that you're gonna get if you want Paul Heyman to run the show. But I don't think Paul Heyman is running the show. I think that was a Vince thing.
And this storyline added to the Maria storyline all on Raw. It's just too much of the same fucking soap opera garbage. Right. Don't care for it. People do respond to it, though. I've seen so many people on Twitter being like, oh my God, she wants that big, black, meaty hog.
So the thing is with this is you can, if you don't like it, that's fine. Don't say anything. Because WWE looks at Twitter, and if people are responding, whether it's positive or negative, to WWE, you're eliciting, or they're eliciting a response from you, which is all they want.
Well, here's the thing. Brian Pillman tweeted out today something that is incredibly accurate. He said, "So you're upset by the ending of a wrestling show? That's the point." The point is exactly what JP just said. The point is to elicit some sort of emotion from you, whether it be happiness or anger.
Like, I was more upset about the actual end of the show because it's copy paste and killing a character.
I shouldn't say I was upset with the ending. I watched the Attitude Era, and I don't. The Attitude Era would have been so much better without that shit in it.
Does anybody want to see more than a one match between Rusev and Bobby Lashley? No. If I have to see fucking months worth of that, I will tune out because, good God, Bobby Lashley walks around like he needs his joints oiled.
I bet you they have a match someday.
That's what I think is going to happen too. But that at least there's a storyline behind. I'm surprised they wouldn't have announced it yet. They'll probably announce. Well, if they haven't now, it's not going to happen.
And I know there's a lot of people that shit on it. I'm one of those people. It wasn't needed. It wasn't needed, but they did it, and it elicited a reaction, whether it be positive, whether it be negative. And WWE's going to run with it, so deal with it. There's nothing you or I can do about it. It's what WWE wants to do. They're going to give and they're going to take. That's what WWE does. And they've done that ever since the beginning of time.
The biggest thing for me about Raw is like they are time slotted on the same week as an AEW debut. NXT fresh on being the first. This is just the first 2 hour show for NXT actually on USA. and SmackDown going live on Friday. They don't want to overshadow the other two, but they want to do something to stay relevant because right now, Raw is sadly at the very bottom of the list of everything I would watch, and that's really their flagship product.
Yep.
hmm
Yep. It is.
And it's
completely
3 hours
is.
of content that they should be utilizing better.
I'll wait to see what they do after the brand split, but I have no high hopes for Raw. Raw has laid the groundwork for being a show right now, and unless they obliterate all the storylines that are currently going on, it's gonna be a not watch for me.
I agree. That being said, Basement said it. Tonight, the debut of AEW.
Onto the juicy shit.
It was okay. I'm gonna say this. It was okay. It wasn't great. Again, I had problems with it, but they're problems that I have with WWE. Here's the problem. Here's the real problem that I have. AEW said, Cody said, we're going to do something different. So what did they do Wednesday night? They did exactly the same fucking shit that WWE does, especially with the ending of that show. And this is the problem that I have. Don't tell me at referee's discretion, because I'll tell you this: if it's at referee's discretion and he's looking at what's going on, what's he? Yeah, fuck it, we're just gonna move on with the match. No,
I don't want to jump forward to that though. Like there's so much that happened before that, but you're right, 100%. And I think we should talk about it eventually. But when you say that they haven't done anything different, the one thing that stood out to me was the fact that they only had a handful of matches and they gave everybody time, and that's something I think is going to be a stalwart with AEW. Like it's a stalwart with NXT.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of wrestling that the new era of viewership or viewers want to see. That's what wrestling will become.
No,
I watch Raw and I think Raw
what I'm
is
saying
living
that they
fast.
aren't. I'm sorry. What I'm saying that they aren't doing differently, or they are doing the exact same thing as WWE, is some of their booking decisions make no sense.
But I think they're gonna have to go through some growing pains to kind of figure that out.
But here's my problem with it. They said they were never going to do the same thing WWE did. And this is the problem that I have with. I've been saying this. Wrestling, you can only do so much in wrestling. Wrestling is copy and paste. It always has been. If you look at WWE, what they're doing now is copy and paste from 1980s. Is all it is. Mixed in with the little bit of attitude era.
I think if they wouldn't have said that, I mean, would you have been a little bit more accepting, knowing that they hadn't said that we're going to be completely opposite? Like if they hadn't said nothing about that, would you have been okay with it?
No, I still would have shit on it. Because here's the thing. And I bitch about WWE. I don't like it when WWE says, well, that's at referee's discretion. No, it's not. If
certain things are, but not that.
The big problem that I had with it was Kenny Omega was standing there. The referee was on the outside trying to break up the fight going on out there. And then John Moxley comes in, and then they start fighting around the ring. There is absolutely no fucking way, none whatsoever, that the referee did not see John Moxley beating the shit out of fucking Kenny Omega. At all. That's why I call bullshit on that fucking match.
The referee's discretion
ends
at
booking. But I'm sick and tired of fucking people saying, well, it's at referee's discretion. If the referee sees something, he disqualifies that.
His referee's discretion.
So the referee's discretion doesn't include booking, and changing a 3-on-3 into a handicap match is exactly what the referee did, which should not be allowed. Now that is. I will say the same thing for certain things with AEW is done, but I think the big gripe for me is more like when they say they want to be different than WWE, and then they technically pick a fight with WWE because they are the ones that did do that. Then they open themselves up to that criticism. If they never did a lot of the cheap shots at WWE, and I think then something like this happened, I'd still not like it. but I'd be a bit more lenient with them it being their first show and everything. But it's like you can't say you're going to be different than this company that you're picking on or trying to pick on, and then say, well, the same rules don't apply to us.
Yeah,
It's
or-
a double-edged sword.
Or even
Right,
say like we're gonna be super strict and have time limits because WWE doesn't have time limits, but then like the bare basics of rules in wrestling kind of just go out the window. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, you can't. Exactly. That's a very good.
Like they need to be consistent. They decide one way or another, and if we're gonna be very rule based and blah blah blah. Fine, follow through with that, but don't bend the rules just for when it's convenient.
Now, JP, you blasted forward to the end of the show. So.
And then
Well, no, that's what I was getting at was, look, I to be honest with you, I actually changed the fucking channel. I thought NXT was more interesting. I watched the little bits and pieces of AEW. I'm not gonna lie, but I did watch the end of that match, and I watched the beginning of it because what was the final match?
The 3-on-3. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus LA.
Yeah.
No. On NXT.
NXT?
I didn't watch that match. It was the tag team titles. I didn't watch that match because I didn't want to watch fucking Street Profits. But so I actually watched that entire fucking match. So I seen everything. Another problem I had, and hopefully they work out the kinks with it. Now that being said, I didn't hate the show. I'm not a hater of AEW. Actually, it was good. Fun. It was fun. I enjoyed watching what it did, but I was more interested in NXT. They put out a better product.
I think the thing with me is I was glued to AEW, and I think it was the whole mystique of knowing, okay, this is the first episode. Everybody on Twitter is blowing up about it. I think that's why I stayed glued to AEW, was more of the whole experience. Next week, I don't think I'll probably be glued to it the whole time. I think I'll be flipping back and forth.
See,
Well,
Me personally, I'm sorry, Basement. I thoroughly enjoyed AEW. I thought that they, from start to finish, I thought that they did a good job. So I watched AEW. I will probably watch AEW live again next week, because I have the option of watching NXT right away the next day. So it's easier for me to watch AEW live and then watch NXT the next day on the network.
It is easier for me, but I'm just saying, like, this upcoming week, I don't think I'm going to be as glued and on the edge of my seat as I was this week. I think that mystique is going to wear off with people.
This is the problem that I had, and I've heard people say that, and I'm not picking on you, Doug. There was nothing, and I've been a wrestling fan since I was 9 years old, 8, 9 years old. I've been watching wrestling for almost 40 years. Okay. There was nothing about that show that put me on the edge of my seat.
No, it wasn't so much like I was on the edge of my seat. I was more into like what the format would be. NXT, it's very much still what NXT's always been.
Well, they've changed.
Yeah.
They've changed their camera look.
Well,
Now,
I was entertained by AEW just simply because, like, they did that. Yes, the commercials, they have to get better going in and out of commercials. That was probably my main
I was just going to say
argument
they were really
against
choppy with some stuff.
It was really choppy with the commercials. However, the rest of the production was great. Like, their cameramen did a fucking phenomenal job. They had the pyro come out. Like Cody's entrance gave me chills with the crowd and everything. The crowd was pretty into it. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed AEW. But then when I watched NXT right after that, I thoroughly enjoyed NXT as well. So,
Right.
So
go ahead, Jason.
I'll say with AEW, the reason I watched it and I watched it live is because I already have the mindset of watching NXT not live. It's only been live a little bit. I've always, like, for years now, I've watched it as a recorded show. So I've kind of had that mindset in place. Plus, though they were putting on a good card, for me, I'm going to see something debut that has been hyped, that is going to be a new big show that I probably will watch because it has a lot of the talent that I like. I'm definitely going to tune into that first. I agree with Gina 100%. As soon as the show started with Cody Rhodes' entrance and when they walked in and the way that the cameraman used they actually used the crowd. It felt very nostalgic, very much like an old 90s, late 90s WCW or WWE event where they panned the
Mhm.
crowd. There's much more people that I thought would be there because I didn't look up anything beforehand. It had a very like sign heavy crowd and stuff like that I thought was awesome. Then you get into the match and it was Cody Rhodes
Sammy
and Sammy
Guevara.
Guevara. Certain, I think like the audience for Sammy Guevara is divided completely. Certain people love the fuck out of the guy. I do not.
I am not a fan of that guy.
I think the thing too, like to kind of touch on what Basement was talking about, like the fact that we are so used to just finding out what happens on NXT and watching the matches later, like going on Twitter isn't a big deal because everybody's like talking about this or that, like but everybody's catching up, so to speak, on NXT. Where with AEW, I had a fear of missing something really important from not watching it. So as well, like that's another thing too. Like with AEW, I feel like if I don't watch it live, then I'm going to be completely spoiled and I'm
Well,
going to
with
miss something.
NXT, it is live now.
Well,
Well, and
I know
here's-
what NXT can do. I have no idea what AEW can do on a live
Mhm.
basis.
Well, and here's the
for a
thing.
television show. That's why I watched it first.
And another reason why I tuned into AEW was I was really excited about the debut and all that stuff, but they've only revealed 40% of their roster. So I was interested to see who else they were going to bring out. And as we saw, they brought out Jake Hager, who either you like him or you don't like him. I personally like him. But I'm still going to be tuning in because there's still a good 50% of their roster that they have not revealed yet. So I'm interested to see who they have.
So they have 30 people or so on their roster, and they have only shown 40% of their roster. How many people they got? 180?
I have no idea, but that's
they
what
end up
Cody
with,
Rhodes
50.
said.
But here's the thing, though. Like I feel like it's you don't also want to get to a place where every week someone else is debuting. They have to pay these people to keep them on roster, otherwise it's like I don't know. So I'm sure, like I would say it's much more likely the number of the percent that they haven't shown is closer to like 10 or 8 or something like that.
Well, you also have to remember as well that like they're teaming up with AAA and OVW, so like or whatever it's called. So like some of the people that are on their roster are technically not being they're technically not part of AEW, but yet they are.
We kind of don't really know how they've worked out contracts and how people can work elsewhere and come in and with needed. So I'll say like they probably have a couple surprises up their sleeves. That being said, like not a fan of Sammy Guevara. Like we've said before a million times, the guy looks like he knows a bunch of wrestling moves and can do none of them correctly. I'm not saying he can't execute the moves. It's just like the comparison I would make for anybody that's ever watched basketball. It's like when you watch a wrestler that really knows what they're doing, it's like a Vince Carter dunk versus somebody like Jason Richardson. They can both dunk really well, but one looks like a natural athlete while he does it. There's something special to what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, and he's also super young. I think he's only like what 20. Yeah.
But to call him the greatest ever, he could shut his.
I don't know if anybody's doing well. He's calling himself that, but that's just fucking bullshit. The thing is, all of his like moves, he can execute them, but nothing looks smooth. Mm-hmm. Nothing looks like he's done it 1,000 times. Everything looks like he's done it. This is like the 8th time he's doing it.
Me personally, like Jungle Boy is right around the same age, and I feel like Jungle Boy looks much more comfortable in the ring than Sammy Guevara does.
That's because he tries not to do more than he can.
Right. But then again, Jungle Boy also has Luchasaurus there to, kind of back him up a little bit. So I don't know.
I just wish he looked more comfortable doing his moveset because he looks like he's. If you've ever seen someone that doesn't look comfortable in their own skin, that's pretty much what he looks like to me.
Well, to sound kind of, is it maybe too? They're all really super nervous about being filmed live.
No, I watched this kid wrestle. No, because he did the exact same thing in Double or Nothing. That match was terrible. He just looked out of place.
Well, and they're filmed live every week down in AAA, aren't they?
I don't know.
I believe AAA has a live show in Mexico.
On Twitch,
I think. Yes. Don't quote me on that.
On Twitch.
Now the match wasn't that bad.
No.
The match between Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara wasn't that bad. My own personal dislikes for Sammy Guevara aside, the match wasn't that bad. I think they had like, was this after that they had the MJF segment or no? No, did they?
Yeah, well, Chris Jericho came out first.
Chris Jericho. Oh, this is where
Oh,
I had
this
a real.
is a
This
huge
is a
problem.
problem that I had. They had Jericho come out, and then they decide to go to a commercial, and they do the picture-in-picture here in the United States. Chris Jericho's beating the shit out of fucking Cody Rhodes, and he's holding a camera like he's doing shit that we need to
They-
hear.
They put
And they're
those
at a
pictures
commercial.
up on Twitter afterwards, and it was fucking great.
But
It was a
don't-
great moment, but the moment was robbed from a lot of us because that actual picture-in-picture should have taken place during the match. As
Yeah.
most people say, don't take commercials during the match. I can live with the picture-in-picture for Cody Rhodes or Sammy Guevara, and then have the biggest part of that match was the end when he did come out and do a bunch of the fucking funny shit. And I would love to hear the commentators and what they're saying about it. Like that was, and that went on for like a minute and a half. I felt like, or 2
It went
minutes
through
of
the whole commercial.
Chris
break.
Jericho.
It went through the
Yeah.
whole commercial.
Darn you
Well,
guys.
and basically that was when Jericho. Sorry, Jory, go ahead.
I was just saying, darn you guys in your American feeds. They didn't show any of that up here. None
Yeah,
of it.
but
Well-
it wasn't anything that was great because you
No,
couldn't
but
hear.
you couldn't
or
hear
see-
anything.
You couldn't
No, but I'm
see
saying,
it.
but if that's something they're gonna do in the future,
Eh.
It's
Kinda
like,
like-
in what world does a Chris Jericho run-in get
Commercial
no
break.
audio, or in certain places, unless you're in the U.S., no visual?
and he's the champ.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why, like, they added it on Twitter later, but that's still taking away from the moment, because like that was when like the hot dog, like the wiener fucking comment came in and all that stuff. Like all that stuff is really funny, and we should have been able to hear it, but it was just a really bad spot for a commercial.
Yeah,
It's just one of the moments that they did throughout the night where they haven't hammered down the commercial timing, and I'll give them leniency on that 100% because they're new to the production. So I will still say that this is a negative for them, but it's not going to hit them, in my opinion, as hard as if they were WWE that's had fucking television shows for 20 years.
Right. Oh, excuse me.
I'm just excited for the future. Like I know some people are like super negative, super like skeptical. I'm excited to see what the next couple of weeks brings for us. Like especially with AEW, not knowing is part of the fun for me.
Well,
The thing is, everybody's like trying to force people to choose, right? And that's the thing I hate. It's like
Me too.
I can dislike certain things about something, and I
Be
can like
wrestling
certain things
hippie.
about something. I can just say that AEW was it was a decent show. It was kind of what I expected, just mainly because it's what kind of storylines do they have going in? It's their first show. They want to show people what they have, and they want to showcase some of the stars that they want to show that they have that diversity going. I was surprised that they put MJF against that Cutler guy because I think Cutler's only in there because he's a good friend of the Young Bucks.
Well, what you were saying too, fuck, what were you just saying? My mind went completely blank.
Everybody's forcing people to choose.
No.
We'll have to wait to see what they do. Cutler is friends with Young Bucks.
No.
I
Maybe
think
I never said it.
I think everybody should just kind of take the hippie way. Like everybody just love everybody, and everybody just enjoy and soak it in.
I enjoy, but with criticisms where criticisms are due. And Cutler, did he injure himself in that match?
No.
It was weird. Like, he just like went up on the top rope, slipped,
It-
and fell down.
This is what happened. He slipped and he pretended that, like, it was pretend. He pretended that his knee gave out, but he just slipped.
That's a good cover for him. But overall, like with AEW, because we're kind of getting there, I want to touch on two things that I think were negatives for me, and then I
Well,
can talk
and that would be, I think, the third match tonight.
exactly.
We'll
That was
talk about the
Riho
major things that happened. How about the women's match? Let's talk about the women's match. God damn it, Wendy. We'll talk about the women's match. And I'm sure that this is one of the points the basement's going to touch on. I didn't even really watch the match. I flipped over. I seen the
It's a
end of
good
it.
match.
I'm going to say it was trash.
Oh, God.
Now, if you didn't really watch it, now how the hell can
No,
you say
hold on.
trash?
What I seen of it was trash.
How
Because
much was that? 5 seconds? Because that was actually a really good match.
No. I watched more than 5 seconds. Whenever NXT went to a commercial, I was flipped over and I was.
That's like,
How long did the match last? 10, 15 minutes? 10 minutes?
Yeah,
It
but
lasted
that,
a
like,
long time. It felt like a
yeah,
25-minute
and
match.
and every single time that NXT goes to a commercial break, that's only like a minute
I
at a
watched more
time.
Oh, it was the other match. I watched pretty much the whole match. Because what match was going on at the same time on NXT?
I have no fucking
Probably
idea.
the maybe the women's match actually. in
Oh
NXT.
no, it was Candice LeRae and Io Shirai was going on, which I've seen them wrestle. So I actually watched. I watched pretty much the whole match. I too many. Nyla Rose is not ready
I
to.
disagree.
She's.
Gina, even Connor sat there and said that her inexperience was showing.
Oh my God, was it showing? And it could bring it up to nervousness, but they put her in that match for a reason, and she did not deliver.
Okay,
Well,
so
the
the
thing
match
is,
did.
too,
Sorry, go
you know, going up against somebody so small, it could just be a factor of like she was scared to hurt her.
That's an excuse. I hate to say that, but that's an excuse.
You literally agreed with me when I said that about the last match Nyla Rose had.
I just think it's kind of like
she actually in that match, she actually started out. I mean, she actually wrestled. This match, she was off. Riho is only 22 years old. She's not ready to be a champion yet. I don't know. Britt Baker should have been the one that was in. I'll say this right now.
She's still out with her concussion.
That woman, it told me. I believe it because the way she was talking, that woman cannot talk.
The sad fact of the matter is AEW does not have an actual legitimate, in my mind, women's champion. They don't have the women's division is suffering because they don't have enough primetime talent that they've showcased. Though I think Riho is good, and I think Nyla Rose is good, but the match wasn't that bad. I thought it was decent. I thought they told the good David versus Goliath story. The thing that killed me for the match was Nyla Rose at some point in time became brain dead because it literally makes no sense to try to disqualify yourself with a chair shot for the first ever women's championship. And they didn't even have like a build for that to happen. Like Sasha Banks coming out and beating someone with a chair. There's some sort of something behind that, but Nyla Rose is just like, what in the fuck are you thinking?
Well, if she would have gotten disqualified, she would have lost.
And lost. And for what reason? To get one chair shot in? The match didn't build that moment for her to be frustrated with her. Like, if you look at that match, it should have been Nyla Jax had come to the point of frustration and shown it emotionally, physically, with smaller Riho getting the better of her time and time again to then go for the chair. I didn't get that. She just randomly went for a chair.
I think Nyla Rose, it should have been a squash match.
To me, it feels just exactly like what they had to do with Nia Jax when they brought her up to the main roster, where she's kind of like having to like learn the groove on the fly, like as they go. And even if she is a little bit experienced, the whole thing is her size, right? So the fact that it was against Rio kind of made sense to me because it's like
hasn't
easy
been
booking.
wrestling that long. She's only been wrestling.
But you also don't want your fucking debut of your main roster to feature someone that's inexperienced.
And she is inexperienced.
The thing is,
they should have put Allie, because she's been wrestling for years now.
Well, the thing is, I 100% it would have been Britt Baker in that position had she not still been suffering from her concussion. So I kind of liked what they did
because suffering from a concussion.
She was cleared to wrestle in that Casino Royale. So she is not under concussion protocol anymore.
Casino Royale was where she freaking got the concussion. It was against Brie
she got
Baker.
the concussion in
Brie-
the tag match with Bea Priestley.
Yeah. Which was
Whatever,
Yeah,
man. If
at
she had the
Casino
title,
Battle-
listen to her speak. Fucking, I went to school. I must leave now.
she
'Cause that was her commentating was terrible.
she had the casino
Casino Royale Battle Royale happened at All Out.
Was she in that one? Because I didn't think she
Yes.
was.
Yeah. She
She
was
was
in with
cleared by
Nyla
and she
Rose.
was there.
Nyla Rose.
So this was a showcase. This
Well-
match went on for a reason.
I think they
Well,
should
then
have waited.
that in itself doesn't make sense then, because when she was speaking on the mic, she was talking about how, like, once she's better, she's coming. If she was in
So-
the Battle Royale. I didn't think she was in the Battle Royale because I don't
She was,
remember her.
'cause she-
Apparently.
As soon as Bea Priestley came out, she went and attacked Bea Priestley because
Remember
Bea
that?
Priestley
You're right.
gave
You're
her
right. I
concussion.
remember that now. Yep.
So this match happened because AEW has gone on record promoting their inclusivity and everyone matters, and then you have the transgender Nyla Rose and you have the Japanese small girl. Like, it happened for that exact reason that this match is being portrayed. If they put in the best wrestlers they had, Riho is probably one of the best wrestlers they have, but still, if they put in the people that were best suited for championship gold, they
would've
wouldn't
been
have
better.
spoken the message that they've kind of made their mantra for their sport. So you kind of have to take a loss to get a gain for them staying true to what they're saying. The match wasn't bad, though. The stupidity factor took me out a huge amount. Like, I would have given this match like a solid 3 out of 5, but it dropped down into 2.25 because it didn't make. There was a point in time when it did not make sense. And that's something that wrestling, this is what I would get frustrated with WWE. So AEW is going to fall victim to that
I
as well.
think the girl that Riho beat should have been in that match.
Yeah.
That's
But-
just. I think she's ready. She's years of experience.
Well, they told a David vs. Goliath story, and they also promoted their own personal agenda for how they want their show to be viewed.
Right.
That's what happened.
But then at the end of the match, Nyla Rose lost her shit. And then Kenny
Yeah.
Omega comes out. Now, this is where it gets confusing because Kenny Omega's match is next. Kenny Omega comes out and pushes Nyla Rose, like, stop doing this. You're not being nice, because Kenny Omega's not going to. He should have powerbombed her ass. But, and then he runs to the back, and then 2 seconds later he comes out.
With the young
So,
Bucks.
JP, where are the videos of him running to the back?
I
When
don't.
people get
I'm
the
just
videos.
being a smartass. I don't.
No,
I
but
don't
where,
know
no, where are the videos of him running to the back? Where there's people coming out with the videos of fucking the Fiend crab crawling out of the underneath the ring. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't. He's already out there. It's okay. Just stand there and wait for the Young Bucks to come out, or go up to the ramp with them and do the elite thing.
I fucking tweeted out right when that happened. I was like, I tweeted a picture of Forrest running as fast as he could because
Yeah,
it was like
I
fucking
saw
Kenny
that.
Omega running to the
Right.
back.
Right? That in itself made no sense. I mean, it might have made sense, but just didn't. If the match wouldn't have happened right away. But it's like they went to a commercial, came back, and Kenny Omega didn't even go to a commercial. I think it was like a quick 30-second spot, and Kenny Omega comes out with the
Yeah,
Young Bucks.
it-
I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It was to advertise full gear.
And then it came back, and Kenny Omega comes out with the Young Bucks doing the elite thing. It's like, what the fuck? Why didn't
Yeah,
they just
I
stay
know
out there?
what
I don't
that
understand. This
either.
made no sense. That made no sense. And then the match happens, and this is a problem that I had with the match. Now, if we would have gotten to see more, and here's the thing: main event, they went to a commercial right in the middle of the main event. Why?
Yep.
We bitch about WWE going to the commercials in the middle of the main events, but I didn't hear one person bitch about it. I get it; it's their first show, but again, I'm not going to give it a pass because they said we're something different. We're going to do things different, but yet they're still doing. I know they have to pay bills, say it about WWE. I know they have to pay bills, but why in the middle of a main event? Get all your fucking
And-
commercials out of the way in the main event.
Before the main
You're
event.
not the only one that was bitching about that either, because I did see people on Twitter, not just during the main event, but I seen people saying, "Man, these fucking commercials! Like they took a lot of commercials."
They did take. It seemed like much more than average, and it might have just been the placement of them to kill the. Like it kind of killed the vibe of the show sometimes.
Yep.
I have a big problem with the whole main event.
Okay, well we're there. So who was the in the main event? It was the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus
LAX and Chris Jericho.
LAX and Chris Jericho.
Formerly.
I got you. I don't give a fuck who they are. I know them as LAX.
We know
Let
that
it-
LAX are going to be LAX on this show.
Yeah,
It is what
Impact,
it is.
and
I
Impact's just being bitches right now.
don't
So-
even don't even call the Viking Raiders the Viking Raiders. I call them the Raiders or the Viking Vikings. It doesn't matter. Who cares? I don't give a fuck. So I know they're LAX. They might have changed their name because I know there's a big dispute. Whatever, don't care. But they come out, then they have a match, and this is where the commercial. Did they started the match? And then
No, they
Go
did
ahead,
start the
'cause
match. Yeah.
I
okay. So
got taken out
fuck
of it.
me.
But go
This
ahead.
match. Okay. So they started the match, and they probably got in about 2 to 3 minutes of the match
Okay.
before Moxley interferes. There's no call from the referee. And then Moxley takes Kenny Omega, beats him all around the arena, puts him through glass. It was a nice spot. Then they go to commercial.
And this is where I went off the other day, or earlier, where I said there is absolutely no fucking way the referee did not see that. And if he did, and I know he did,
Right.
and he just blew it off and swept it under the rug, why?
This is
Why?
the
You
You have
second
to remember
moronic
what refs were
moment.
talking about too. Wasn't that Earl? Or no, it wasn't Earl
No,
Hebner with
No,
that
Earl
match.
Hebner was in.
Earl Hebner, I don't even know what match he did.
He did one in the middle.
Did the Cody one.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't the Cody one this time.
Aubrey did the good God, don't even.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
this is the second moronic move that happened. The first was Nyla Jax with the chair. The second is just a blatant disregard of the rules of wrestling. And people can say leniency all they want. There's certain things that are a staple in wrestling, and there's certain things where a ref can make a call. I agree, like a ref being lenient and allowing certain things, but literally changing the format of a match, it means he's allowed to basically almost change booking. Like if it was a championship match and someone ran in and the ref was like, "It's now a triple threat," would anybody be okay with that?
No.
They should have just said
Well-
at the beginning that was no DQ,
Well,
And
and-
I would have been okay with that.
and that would have been fine
Well,
with
and
it
like-
then.
Yeah, and like I will say, and I've said this before, AEW has like the refs are a lot more lenient than WWE. But in this situation, I did think that it should have called for a disqualification.
But I think like when I look at leniency for a referee, I mean, if all hell breaks loose in a 3-on-3 and all 6 people are in the ring beating the shit out of each other, I can be okay with that. And like they're like, okay, well the tags are out the window, everyone's just kicking the shit out of each other, right? That's okay. But this is like completely disregarding the rules and with no actual meaning to do, no actual reason for it. And I know they're furthering storylines at the same time, but it's built off of something that shouldn't be happening. And then they come back from the commercial break, and the match, and I timed it, was literally 3 minutes after that, until another thing happened. Like there was various ways to get around this without doing what they did. Like Dory said, you can go no DQ, or you could have pushed what Moxley did to the end of the match, have him come out, have it end in DQ. What is so wrong with it ending in DQ? If they put on 10 solid minutes of wrestling and then it ended in DQ and Kenny Omega was drawn away by Moxley, and then the whole ending of the show took place the way it was anyway.
Yeah, it was bad storytelling. Whatever they were doing was not right.
It's not necessarily bad storytelling, it's just bad adherence to wrestling rules for literally no reason.
Yeah.
It's something I hope they learn from and don't repeat, because a lot of people on Twitter were saying the same thing that we're repeating now with why is this happening in terms of why is it not a DQ. Jack Hager coming out to me, and this is my own personal opinion. I don't think much of Jack
Me neither.
Hager, Swagger, whatever you want to call him.
Hager's
They
here.
might,
Jake Hager.
they might build him probably the best that he's ever been built in a wrestling company, but he wasn't built very well in any other. Lucha Underground tried to do the same thing and tried to make it a big thing that he was showing up. And it works a bit better in a company where everyone's, 5'8" to 6'1", and he's the big 6'5" dude.
Mhm.
It looks better for him in Lucha Underground, just like it will look better for him in AEW.
Yep.
But it just didn't hold the same. I mean, if they're holding it on 30% of the roster, and that's the thing that they want to show you for the first ever show that they're promoting, it was underwhelming for me. But that's my own personal opinion.
The way that show ended is the way most WCW shows ended.
I will say this: what I really, really enjoyed about AEW is all throughout the night they were building up storylines. So they do have that going for them.
I agree.
Whereas
what
WWE is lacking
storylines?
in
Like what
storylines right now.
storylines? Like
So
what
they've got the
storylines?
Nyla
Explain. I'm
Rose
not
attacking
trying
after
to-
the match. They've got the whole end of the show. They've got Moxley attacking. They've got at least 3 storylines.
Jericho and Cody.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've got a couple things in the works to eventually become, and I can see it, and it might be bad. Creating 2 factions
Yep.
Yeah.
at this early stage in the game is what killed WCW.
You know
planting
what?
all
I
kinds
said this. I said this to Heather. I think I said it to a couple other people. This is their NWO for some reason. I just have this funny feeling that this is their NWO. This is their shock factor,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
don't
but I
think
did,
it
I
is.
did I did really enjoy the story building because that's something that I have been
I mean,
missing from WWE as of late.
the Kenny Omega and
Moxley.
Moxley
Moxley.
storyline was started at Double or Nothing, which is fine.
Right, but they
I
built
knew
but
that
they
was
built
gonna
on
be-
it.
Huh?
They had
But
to
they built
reignite it
on
kind
it.
of because
No,
of what
I
happened.
understand. No, let me finish. I'm saying I knew that was going to be a storyline. I'm behind that storyline. I just didn't like the way that they incorporated it into the match. I would have done it like Basement, had it end, the match end, and then Moxley come out. That's what I. That's what is it? I knew the Cody and Jericho thing because they're wrestling at Full Gear. And then they're ultimately building the Young Bucks in LAX.
Yeah.
And that's
And-
because this coming up week starts their tag team tournament
But-
and the Young Bucks are part of that and so is LAX.
No, they aren't. No, they are not. LAX is not part of that.
They're not part of the tournament. I thought
No,
they added them in.
they signed LAX after they made the announcement of that tournament and who was going to be in it.
Here's what I see happening. I see the Young Bucks winning said tournament, and then LAX beating them up as they come out.
I actually think the opposite. I think the Young Bucks are going to lose to Private Party the first round, and then it's going to LAX is going to feud with the Young Bucks.
Either way, it could work. The strongest division for AEW is their tag division. They've got some of their best talent in that division, so I'm excited to see what they do with it. As for the show, they did something that they said that they would do, and they put on pretty good wrestling, which is the most important thing. They built storylines, which is another most important thing. The other things that they did aren't necessarily nitpicks, but they are points that they need to improve upon if they're going to continue down that path. Like, hopefully they have some sort of reasoning, and I highly doubt they will, for why the ref didn't call DQ.
I think that's what I'm looking forward to this week, and to seeing how
They are
AEW
going to mention it.
react to everything and how they react to what the feedback is from fans. I think that'll be interesting because that's one of the things WWE lacks, is actually adjusting based off of what like the general consensus think. They just do what they think is best. So we'll see. Like, that's what I want to see AEW kind of react to this week.
Well, I will go with WWE on this one. I would rather them do their own thing. I don't want fucking fans telling me how I should run my company.
I think it's more just taking into account what the fans are saying, and if the fans are saying this didn't make sense, then you might need to make something
Well,
that
I
makes sense.
understand that, but don't change it. Well, don't listen to the fans say, "Well, I want this."
Don't
Well,
book.
should
Don't
No,
book
I'm
for
not
the
talking about like
fans.
basic booking, but I'm
but
talking about if the fans are craving rules and they want us to have structured
I-
rules, then we'll
they-
have structured
But-
rules.
But you also got to remember AEW, when they initially started, they said that they are doing this for the fans. They are going to listen to the fans. So
That's
they might
insane.
very well explain it or have something happen as
the-
far as like repercussions for it or something, like another match or something like that.
Or maybe they'll come out and they'll actually tell the ref that he's fined or something for not. Like, I'm thinking, like, the biggest thing is they've seen the negative reaction. And if this is, like, their biggest negative reaction, they're obviously really into social media and everything. Like, they're going to see it and they're going to have to react one way or another. They're either going to have to buy in or buy out. Like,
But a lot of the trips that go on online too for WWE as a product is, cohesive storytelling and things that like cut off the shit that doesn't make sense. And I think that's with everybody, and that's something I want to see. Like you can say all you want about leniency and stuff like that, but yeah, it's if it's blatantly breaking the rules and you're not calling it, then the rules don't mean anything, and you're off to a bad. You don't want to get into that place where nothing means anything.
Yep,
Mhm.
because WWE does it. They do it to this day.
And also,
Go ahead, Trey.
I said online, I think we were talking about this on Twitter earlier, that they're like, oh, Matt Jackson said this or this. Like, well, that's great, but why don't you have him come out and say it during the freaking event instead of 2 days later on Twitter when we're all bitching and moaning about it? It's like, because
He was
like,
getting his
that's
ass
what
kicked.
pissed me off. It's like, man, that should be a DQ immediately. Huh?
He said he was getting his ass
Was
kicked
that-
at the time. That's why.
I think AEW
No, I know,
too
but
is
I
very
mean, like,
much.
Here's the thing.
they couldn't have had
Go ahead, Trek.
They couldn't have had like Jim Ross say something at commentary. I mean, it's not that hard. You could have had Joe.
See-
You could have had Cody in the back saying, "Hey, this was a mistake, and we're going to address this another time." Or
It could
like,
have been
but
an
all we got was on
shit.
Twitter 2 days later. Matt Jackson jumps on there and goes, "Oh, it was referee's discretion. It was fine." It's like that doesn't. That's great, but that's 2 days later. It's a moot point at that point.
It could have been too, just throwing this out there, maybe the ref was supposed to be designed to be somewhere else to not have seen it, and it was just a fluke that it was bad camera work and bad timing.
But then the ref has to go on with the rest of the match as a handicap match and be
Which-
like, "Oh, what
which
the fuck happened to
he-
Kenny
he-
Omega?"
This is the problem. Another problem.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
He blew it off. Like, didn't even acknowledge that Kenny Omega wasn't there. If he didn't
The
see
whole company blew it off because the ref blew it off. The commentators didn't talk about
Yeah.
it, and it's obvious that it was a bone of contention for a lot of people online.
it, so they
So hopefully, it's
swept
not something that they continue to do because, like I said before, it's one of those places you don't ever want to get into murky waters with rules.
No, and I think to me that's why I think it was like a whoops, because they didn't react to it. If they had it
And-
planted of, oh, now it's going to be the refs calling a handicap, like they would have said something on commentary. They would have reacted, and I think the fact that they didn't react shows to me that it wasn't planned.
I think it was 100% planned, and
Okay,
they
I
didn't
got it.
anticipate the backlash for it. That's it.
Okay, I got it wrong a little bit. Matt Jackson said, "Oh, it was okay because Kenny wasn't the legal man." It's still part of the match. If that happens in WWE, they still call DQ if they're legal man or not legal man.
Somebody from that was not in the match interfered in the match. So you
Exactly.
either have to.
Exactly.
It's basically like using a chair in a match. It's not a no DQ match. You got to draw the line
You
somewhere.
mean
but,
Nyla Rose earlier?
but again, this is like I want to see like this is I'm gonna continue to look at AEW that hopefully is a company that mends the mistakes it's made and learns from them and continues to grow that way. This is where my leniency comes in with them. I still think it was a pretty good show overall. That's all I really have to say about AEW.
It was okay from what I seen of it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I had a problem with pretty much the same thing. I still wasn't a fan of the women's match. I don't know.
Rebecca
both-
on commentary did not.
Oh,
help that at all.
she did not help it.
I agree with you,
I
JP.
want to know. I
Oh,
want
she
to
was
know what
awful.
her fucking gimmick is. Is she a fucking dentist or is she a college fucking student?
She's a dentist.
She's a
I know what
No,
she
but
is.
is
I'm
that
being
her
a
gimmick
smartass.
or like?
No. But she was talking about how
Yeah.
she's done all this time in school to become a dentist.
She was talking
That's the
about
only thing she said though.
JR.
And she was on commentary for the whole
asked
match.
her this specific question. You study a lot. She goes, I did it for 8 years. And then she talked about I do it in school, did it in school all the time. What do you want to go back to fucking school? Then go back to fucking school. What the fuck is your gimmick?
Because they were talking about how she was out there to study the match.
I know why
But
she
but
was
the thing is
out there.
that moment of commentary kind of started and died with that statement. She never went on to say much else of any use, so she kind of like just died into the background. It definitely wasn't a great showing for her on the mic with the commentators. The women's division as a whole for AEW, I could leave behind.
I just think, to me, like, I know they needed to kind of crown another champion, but to me it feels like they should have waited on the women. Like, they should have tried to push it off a little bit if they don't have the talent ready to do it.
Well, there's talent there that they have that is ready to do it.
They have to, if
Allie?
they have a women's division, they have to have a championship for it. Otherwise,
But you
what
need
are they
to
really
crown it
wrestling
right away.
for?
Yes.
Also, do you need to change the belt? Yes. 'Cause that belt is fucking hideous.
That belt is
It's
ugly.
I agree. The belt
my
is
God,
It's
ugly.
tiny too.
Did you see the AEW Tag Champs and the AEW Championship? They both look like legit titles. And you have this fucking Fabergé A bullshit. Like,
Maybe
what
they
the
made
fuck?
it really
Yeah.
tiny for Rio. Can you imagine Rio with a full-size belt?
But is she the only champion that they'll ever have?
No,
Oh,
but maybe
fuck.
the next person who has it will change the belt or something. Like, you don't know.
No,
You don't
I'm
want
hoping.
that.
I
Oh,
don't
you don't
want
want
them
that.
to fucking have. I don't like it when WWE does it. I didn't like it when John Cena changed the belt to that fucking spinner belt.
Well, then the owner of the belt is more over than the belt itself. Like, it's more important.
Exactly.
If you're changing the belt constantly, the belt loses value.
I want to see what it looks like with somebody wearing it. I know that sounds kind
I
of stupid, but
don't want to see it ever
Maybe
again.
next week we will. When Riho shows up, maybe she will.
Well, I get it.
That's a nitpick. Whatever. It is what it is. I've hated so many belts in the past. It doesn't matter.
The prop.
Hopefully, it doesn't become just that in AEW. The one thing I did not mention, and I don't know if many people caught it, but and I only saw it during the women's match, but when Riho and Nyla Jax had come out, they put both their names on there, and they put a little ticker beside it with their win, loss, and tie record.
that was cool.
I
Yeah,
didn't
so
see
Yeah.
it. I didn't see it.
That's
Yeah, that's
delivering on a
really fresh,
promise.
too.
It's delivering on a promise that they were saying that wins and losses matter. I just wish they had like a
addressed it.
more I wish they also addressed exactly how it works. Because if like if you're in a 6-man tag and you lose, does that count as a loss or is it just an individual record? Hopefully that comes out in the next couple of weeks that they do this and they can say like these are
We're
it's
trying
good
to make
see
it a
numbers.
legitimate sport, but we
It's
don't
good to
care
see
about the
numbers.
rules.
But the thing is, you can show me numbers, and as long as they're important, they matter. But if I have no idea how that number's being created, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
They
So
did
hopefully
show
it's
it during
individual.
Cody's match. When he came out, I saw it.
I hope it's an individual record unless you're a legitimized tag team, and then it's a tag team.
Don't worry, basement. It's gonna be like the fucking Goldberg record. It's gonna shoot up
I was
clean
just thinking
just
that.
randomly.
I've had
Yeah, they're
4,052
not gonna live
matches.
events yet. It's the 5 times a week.
All right. Well, NXT. I watched NXT.
I did
And I
too.
watched it twice. I watched it with Basement and Gina and Heather and Bobbit. And the show started. And I'm going to tell you right now, and these guys know me, they've seen me watch wrestling. I never jump out of my seat and go, holy shit. Basement knows what I'm talking about. And you know what I'm talking about. The match of the year. For me, this is a match of the year. Was Adam Cole and Matt Riddle
For the NXT
Oh,
champion.
what
for
a
the
match.
NXT title. Oh my god. I have not seen a match like this since Savage Steamboat. The intensity like Matt, they could have wrestled probably for 2 fucking hours. I bet these guys could have wrestled for a week, and they wouldn't have run out of energy. The part that I'm talking about was the basement knows what I'm talking about. It was like a sequence of like a 45-second montage of them
Slamming the fuck out of each other.
suplex into a knee strike, into a suplex, and a roll. It was just like I jumped out of my fucking chair and was in awe of what I was watching. That match was probably the best match I have seen in, like I said, since Steamboat Savage.
The thing I loved about this match is it started in second gear and ended in like
20th?
18th gear. Like they just did not slow down. There was no rest. There was one of the best German suplexes I've ever seen executed into a brain buster or a neck breaker, whatever you. It was basically a brain
It
buster
was
on
right
the
at
knee.
the beginning of the match too.
And it like that match was high octane from the beginning to the end. Did not take a break. There was not a commercial break at all during the match. Match was solid. Match. This is the thing. I looked at. Okay, so I'm gonna inevitably I'm gonna compare AEW and NXT because everyone in the world is doing it. AEW's first match was good, and it started off in second gear as well. I'm just not a huge fan of Sammy Guevara, but the match was good. NXT's match did the same thing, and both those matches did not take a commercial break until the matches ended. It's just the NXT had the leg up because they had a storyline already developed, and the match was just
Main event
match
caliber.
was flawless. Like that was a excellent match, and I agree with JP 100%. It is a match of the year candidate for me.
Yes, it is match. So far, it is match. And Killian Dane the week before, Matt Riddle was in a match with Killian Dane, and it is what a street fight should be. And I almost called that was up there for one of my favorite matches in a long time. But this one topped it.
Matt Riddle has now proven time and time again that he is. His star is going to shoot ridiculously high. Like the guy he's got face of the company written all over him.
Exactly.
Sorry guys, I gotta hop off.
Okay.
But amazing wrestling this week, and I'm excited for next week. Hey guys.
Hey Dory.
Night, Dory.
Hey, Dory.
Hi, Dory.
I loved this match. I can't praise it enough. And Basement knows what I'm talking about. Remember that? I lost my shit.
I did too. It was an excellent match.
It wasn't as good. It wasn't as good as Brock Lesnar's Shooting Star Press, but whatever.
It's close.
So the second match was Io Shirai. What was the second match? Anyway,
Io Shirai versus Bean.
let me go back. I'm sorry. The finish of the match is something big happens. The ending of the match is Adam Cole uses Jesus. Adam Cole uses his cast to knock out Matt Riddle. Fucking A. Kid goes through a fucking swing of emotions in like 2 seconds. Can you stop?
I didn't find the hit with the cast to be that obvious though.
Say it again,
Which is
Basement.
the hit with the cast wasn't obvious enough for me to notice it in match.
Thanks, Gina.
And maybe for some reason, so that's the only knock I have is the hit with the cast wasn't obvious enough for me.
Right, and I didn't hear you said I've got fucking Wendy thinking it's funny to scream. So I'm sorry, it's fine. But the end of the match, again, you're gonna have to pick her up because
That's gonna make it worse. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
we'll take her in the bedroom. I hate to do that.
Next time she's going nuts and along with that.
Somebody's angry at me. Jesus. So, I forgot what I was gonna fucking say. I hate that. I hate this shit.
The
end of the match?
and Cole was taking with the cast.
So Adam Cole ends up hitting, and I knew that the cast was going to be a part of the match. That's pretty much what you said, right, Basement?
Well, I was saying that the hit wasn't as obvious as I thought it should have been
Right.
for me, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I enjoyed the match thoroughly, but the kicker, and I'm gonna say it now: do not call NXT developmental. You can't. Why? Finn Balor comes out and says that he is now NXT. With that move alone, just legitimized NXT is main roster worthy, in my opinion. Why? Because Finn Balor is beloved by the NXT. He was on the main roster. He's a former Universal Champion, even though it was for one day. He was an Intercontinental Champion. So for that makes NXT legitimate to me and puts them right at the forefront. I'm looking forward to see what they do with this and him. I think it's going to be and ultimately be a triple threat, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I love the move. I think it's a fantastic move by WWE because NXT beat AEW as far as entertainment value and wrestling, hands down, in my opinion.
And I agree. The move with Finn Balor going back to NXT, he's already he's legitimate on the main roster. He's loved by a lot of fans that never watched NXT.
Right.
Gives them even that much more of a viewing audience when now that they've moved to the actual time slot on USA. It's a huge move. It legitimizes NXT as main roster, and I think he's not going to be the only one we see making that transition in my mind. But it was a great idea to do this, and it happened at the beginning of the show after the first match, which just was something that I think that they needed to do. So then Finn Balor basically gets introduced, and I think he was walking back, and Finn Balor was walking back, right? And Ciampa comes out.
No, that's at the end of the show.
Okay, well, I don't know where I am now.
Okay, well, I don't even know what the next match was. I think it was Io Shirai and Candice
I think it was the other women's match, wasn't it?
Shirai and Mia Yim.
Oh,
Okay.
Io Shirai
Yeah.
and Mia Yim was the match.
This was a match I unfortunately did not care about.
No, but it's just solidifying Io Shirai as one of the top heels is ultimately what it's doing. And Mia Yim, although I do like her, she is very talented. She's kind of getting lost in the sauce, so to speak.
Yes, and I agree 100%.
Which is sad because I think she could be main roster talent. She could be.
But I also
SmackDown,
feel like some of it's on her.
What's that?
I feel like some of her, I guess, no direction is kind of on her.
Yeah.
She seems like she's not putting on the same level of match. She just doesn't seem confident in her own character for some reason.
It's because it's not really what she is as far as a character. Her character is
she's a badass.
She is acting like a badass, but she is more into the girly girl, believe it or not, she's more into the girly girl type fucking. She was in Impact. She was in with the Beautiful People, which was Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. So, and who else? Brooke Adams and all them other. She was in a faction. The Baby Dolls, they were called, I think. And she was, and it wasn't Impact. It was actually TNA. So, she's got it. She can do it. It's just I don't think she's comfortable with her, like Basement said, her gimmick or whatever. What is her character? I think she's supposed to be like a.
She's calling herself the Palladian baddie.
But I also feel like this match suffered because it went on after a legitimate one of the best year matches that you're going to see. So whatever came on afterwards was going to suffer regardless. I wouldn't say it was a bad match or anything, but it was kind of like a break match because I had hit such a high with the last one that this one kind of like dipped me back down. Both like Io Shirai is probably the best wrestler they have in all of WWE as women in the women's division, in my honest opinion. But yeah, it was just one of those hold us over until the next moment matches.
Right. Yeah, I disagree with you. But the next match, I can't even remember what the next match was. It happened. It was a blur. But I enjoyed it. I want to say it was. I don't think it was a match that I cared about. I don't. No, it was Johnny Gargano and what's his nuts?
Shane Thorne.
Shane Thorne. All right.
It wasn't
match.
a bad match, man.
No.
Shane Thorne is surprisingly shining as an individual star.
Yeah. I mean, it was good. I have trouble remembering matches. I never wrote down the cards. Bear with me.
Well, I remember when we were watching it, you're like Shane. You were basically praising Shane Thorne because we didn't get to see him really shine in the tag team. The tag team was injured and then off and on and everything like that. But he's got a good look for a wrestler and everything, and he can work in the ring, man. Holy fucking that guy work.
Yep, I like him. Gargano, he's Johnny fucking wrestling. You're gonna always get something good from him. It's not gonna be a bad match. Another good match, but it wasn't as good as the first one.
Yeah, well, that's on the unfortunate side to putting on something that good that early, and they probably did it just to combat AEW, but the rest of the show kind of suffered because of it. But I'm thankful that they showed us that match, so I can give a bit of leniency towards the rest of the show for not being as impactful.
Christ, kid. Kids eat fucking paper, man.
Yeah.
Well, she's gonna be constipated. She eats fucking cardboard and fucking paper. Anyway, so what's the match? What happened? What was the match after? It was a good match. Shane Thorne. I think he's gonna be one of those guys.
He's going to be one of those main eventers.
Danny Burch
eventually.
and Dunn. Who did Danny Burch wrestle? Was it Pete Dunne?
I believe
It was.
And then Yep. And Damian Priest. Look, I hate Pete Dunne. I shouldn't say I hate Pete Dunne. I dislike Pete Dunne's wrestling. Like I was anticipating the next fucking joint manipulation. Throughout the whole match, it's like, here comes the joint manipulation.
The thing is, like, when I first saw Pete Dunne, for the first while I saw him, he used joint manipulation, but it wasn't all, like, it was a spot in his match. It wasn't the match was all about joint manipulation. That's if you want to watch NXT UK, you're going to see a hell of a lot of that shit. But he would do like a spot here and there with joint manipulation. But other than that, the guy can wrestle in the ring, and he doesn't necessarily need the joint manipulation. Oh. If he's going to be a heavy heel, then the joint manipulation works, but only do it sparingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is overbearing with the joint manipulation. It gets ridiculous. And then the match ends with him doing his fucking Marty Scurll finger break, and then doing the whatever that fucking finisher is.
I like his
other end.
Yeah, and that Daniel Burch, I can't remember what we said he looked like when he wrestles. Looks like fucking an angry, not Walter the wrestler, but an angry Walter from fucking Jeff Dunham.
He looks like Hitman the character after he retired.
This is
also he's got grandpa panties on. Fucking guy's got his fucking he's got his fucking wrestling tights up to his fucking tits.
Right. That's Daniel Burch right there.
Well, so does Seven does too.
What?
I said Trent Seven friggin' chunks all the way up too.
It's the old school English boxer look.
Yeah.
And it's just like the guy is in his 40s now. He's on the end of his career. It just wasn't really the match I wanted to see. I'm not going to hate on Danny Burch because I think he's actually very serviceable in ring. But he's one of those guys that when people say like Samoa Joe is in talent enhancement, I look at Danny Burch and I actually see talent enhancement. I look at Samoa Joe and I see money.
Like, that's being used as talent enhancement.
Right.
Like Danny Burch was legit talent enhancement.
And then the next match was Shayna Baszler and Candice LeRae. And it ended just as I thought it was going to, which I'm okay with because I think she's going to end up losing the title here very soon. But it's going to be to Rhea Ripley. I think Rhea Ripley is going to.
Yep.
I will say with Shayna Baszler, I originally really liked her as champion, and that actually lasted for like a year. She's held the title for too long. She does need to move. I think her time in NXT is done, and I'm not saying NXT is developmental or anything. She needs to transition to Raw or SmackDown, and they need to bring somebody back to replace her.
Yes. We were talking, and what we would like to. I've heard people. Finn Balor comes back. Who else would you like to see come back? The only other person that I would like to see come back to NXT would be Asuka.
But here's the thing: you bring Asuka back to beat Shayna Baszler, and you run into the same problem that Shayna Baszler is posing. Another super dominant champion. I almost want to see a champion now for the women's division that holds the belt for like half a year max.
Yeah, I don't see Asuka when she does do it. I don't see her holding the title for a year.
I do see Io Shirai there, who has given her some of the best matches in other promotions.
I could see Io Shirai beating Asuka and beating her NXT streak.
That would be ideal.
That would be the great rub for Io Shirai because she's young. She's good enough, like you said, and I cannot disagree with Basement at all. Besides Asuka or Sasha Banks or Charlotte, she is the best women's wrestler in the WWE.
I think that would be a huge moment too for NXT. If you see Shayna Baszler out there and being like, just picture the moment where she's out there just being like, I beat everybody and everything, and maybe even willing to say, I'm gonna leave the belt behind to move to the main roster, and then you hear Asuka's music hit. That would be fucking great. And then Asuka wins, and then Io Shirai eventually beats her, which I think would be the passing of the torch. Asuka goes back to SmackDown to Raw.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a storyline I could easily get behind.
Yep. And then 6 months down the road, Io Shirai or whoever, it's going to be Io Shirai or however long they do it for, Io Shirai ultimately is the one to beat her. And Asuka, I'm thinking that she is on her way. She's getting older, and she's been wrestling for a very long.
Well, not only that, but if you've been paying attention to her Twitter account, she's been she's been doing more with her gameplay channel than anything else.
Yeah, she can move on to other things. I think she's had her fun with wrestling.
I'd love to see Asuka move into the first like Legends technically contract for NXT.
Yeah.
That would be.
I'd love to see that move because she's what 38 years old or something close to that. And they're not going to do anything with her on the main roster. She could fuck around on the main roster for a couple of years, but not really get any momentum. Right. She's kind of like she's hit her zenith, and I'd love to see her have that one last run as NXT champion, pass the torch to Io, and then kind of not hang it up, but be a Legends contract at that point. Focus on your YouTube, focus on your gameplay.
Do the whole Japanese, what they do when they are on their way out or whatever. I would love to see that. And I'm
And
pretty sure Triple H, if you're listening, man, do it, because that would probably be one of the greatest WWE moments. And I know WWE loves their fucking moments. That would be a moment that we will never forget, because
Yeah.
if that match needs to fucking happen.
I mean, Asuka comes back as a face, beats Baszler. Baszler moves on to the main roster. They just shuffle seats, basically. And then Asuka holds the championship as a face for 6 months, loses to Io Shirai as a heel. Perfect.
But they
Book it.
see, Aaron, here's the thing, though. That's Raw and SmackDown. I guarantee it. If she goes back to NXT, it'll be like nothing ever happened.
Oh, the pop for her in NXT would be monstrous. You thought people popped for Finn Balor? Asuka? Man, she
There
left
would be no Rusev
undisputed.
on building.
Asuka and Finn Balor are the epitome of what NXT is.
NXT
But you look at
building.
Shayna Baszler now, she's basically Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
They need somebody outside of the company or not within the roster for NXT to beat her.
Mhm.
And that's the right person to do it.
Exactly.
And Oscar, if you're watching out there, if you need a baby daddy, I'm right here. I can give you my address.
And then the show just took a turn. But so yeah, it was a good match. Candice LeRae ends up tapping out, like I suspected, to the submission hold of Shayna Baszler's. She did it on her own. She didn't need any help. So deal with it. And then the main event was the tag team match between the Street Profits and Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. We've talked about Kyle O'Reilly. I think, and I can't remember the exact discussion because I'm old and I got old timers disease. But Kyle O'Reilly was a world champion in Ring of Honor. I don't think, and everybody's like, oh, he should be world champion. I don't think that will ever happen. Not because I don't think he could do it, but his gimmick is just not. He's an upper mid card. I could see him as a North American champion. I could never
He is
see
the
him as
perfect guy to make a mid card legitimate, because he has a very distinct style of wrestling. He is very good in the ring, and if he's been a champion before in other promotions, he's got some experience on the mic.
Yep.
He is definitely not going to be in WWE and be a WWE champion. And in terms of like the WWE champion or Universal champion, but I could see the guy being a great Intercontinental or North American U.S. champion, or even North American champion if he stays in NXT. But he's the type of guy that just legitimizes whatever he's in, and I even love him as a tag team.
right. He's a good tag team, and what we've said is Bobby. Well, I don't mind Bobby Fish, but I don't think Basement doesn't like him, but he doesn't.
It's not that I don't like him. I enjoyed the matches when he was tagging with Roderick Strong a bit more than Bobby Fish. I just feel like that duo is that duo of Roderick Strong and fucking Kyle O'Reilly would actually make a very strong tag team and help bolster a tag team division that seems to suffer.
Right.
And because the division sucks most of the time anyway.
Right, and what's sad about that is Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly have been world champions almost everywhere they've been. In fact, they have been world champions.
They work really well together. It's not that they don't. It's just Roderick Strong brings more to the table than Bobby Fish does in terms of in-ring talent.
Mhm.
And Bobby Fish is not bad.
No.
He's a very serviceable wrestler.
Yes.
Is all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. I agree 100%. So that match ends with Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly winning. And then Adam Cole comes out, right?
Yes. It stands on the ramp.
And stands on the ramp, and he's standing there going, you guys are awesome. You guys are like the greatest thing ever. and Tommaso Ciampa shows up. Now, I was going to say, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's going to come back. He's going to have a match." No, and I'm like, I don't think he's going to show up. But
And
really,
wrestle
what I
right away.
meant is he's not. He might show up, but he's not wrestling. At least not yet. And I see them doing a triple threat at NXT Takeover and putting the title back on. Well, I don't know if they'll put the title back on Ciampa, but they'll put him in a match and he'll be protected with two people where he doesn't have to take control of the match. They'll let him ease his way back into it. I don't know.
I would actually love to see them not do a triple threat and
Right.
have Ciampa always like, because I don't know how clear he is to do anything. I'd love to see him come out and just like kind of like make people understand that he's there and he's eyeing the title, and continually do that leading up to Takeover, which is probably going to be Finn Balor versus Adam Cole. And then at the end of that match, have him actually be in the ring and attack the winner,
Right.
leading up to the next Takeover, because the triple threat would be fun to see and everything. I don't think it's needed necessarily, and I don't know how ready he is to go. It's just I like the NXT tends to do a slow burn, which I like. Like things that we usually anticipate for them to do happen much later or don't happen at all. Like most of the times I've been like, oh, they're gonna call this person up, they're gonna change the title, they're gonna do this. It doesn't happen because
Right.
they like to keep the things like they like to work a slow game, and that's hugely appreciated for me because they're telling stories while they're telling other stories.
Really? Okay.
And just a
Go
quick,
ahead. Go ahead.
just a quick little snippet here. WWE NXT itself tweeted out that Ciampa has been medically cleared to wrestle.
But I don't think they're gonna have him wrestle.
No, I'm not saying that.
That
I'm
makes it
just,
even
just
more.
clarifying
That I
for
would love
basement.
that.
He has the full clarity to wrestle when he wants.
I would even love it more if he wasn't involved in the match. If they say that he's fully cleared to wrestle and he just shows up looking at the championship, looking at the champion for a week or two, then, you know, the only thing is I don't know how long they can actually pull that off before the next takeover. So either way, I'm not going to be disappointed. If it's a triple threat or it's a one-on-one leading to another one-on-one, I'm okay with that.
Well, they could have him show up, look at Adam Cole, look at the belt, or just look at the belt a couple of times, and even have him just show up and just kind of distract Adam Cole during the match.
That's what I would like to see, and especially if they say that he's clear beforehand, so everybody knows that he can wrestle, but he's choosing not to. He's like choosing his point of attack.
Yes.
I would actually like a lot more than him just being inserted in a match. And because they don't feature that championship on every NXT, have it happen. You know, it basically happens for a month, even though the duration takes place over the next 2 until the next takeover.
Right.
That I would like to see. But we'll see what happens with it. Regardless, it was a great spot. I'm surprised he's back as quick as he was, but the Ciampa has always been since like he kind of like took off on his own. I've loved the guy 100%.
Yeah.
Well, the doctors even said it helps a lot that he is extremely athletic. So with that surgery, it helped him.
Yeah.
And he was extremely diligent with following the doctor's orders and doing the physical therapy every chance he got.
Yeah. And he's a workout machine. You can tell.
I also think, and I hope there was times there when NXT was deemed developmental, because it was, where everybody's like, when is Gargano and Ciampa going to go to the main roster? I hope it never happens for either of those guys. They are basically two of the faces that NXT needs to brand as those are the guys that you're going to see anytime you come to see us.
Yep. Nope, I agree.
Well, Ciampa said he never wants to go to the main roster.
But for like in all honesty, for what? Like if he goes there, though he's as good as he is, his size is going to deem him less than championship material. And how old is Ciampa now?
Almost 40.
No,
he's 36 or something like that, I think.
He's Johnny Gargano's. He's a couple of years older than Johnny Gargano.
I hope he stays there forever. He's like the most legitimate heel that they've had.
Is he a heel though now?
He reminds me 100%, and like even his like storyline building reminds me a lot of Triple H.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get
He's
that.
I'm not talking about in ring or anything, but it's just like everything that he's got going on,
The
like
character build and all that. Yeah.
yeah,
I
all
can
of his
get behind
character
that. I
building.
can
He's that Triple H heel, yet everyone loves him.
Right, right. Yeah.
I'll be right back.
So you said you'd be right back. What? Okay. So yeah. So next is actually we'll get into SmackDown. We'll start talking about SmackDown here in a second. So AEW had, and we're going to talk about this. We're going to try to run through this stuff real quick. I'll go into we'll do SmackDown and then New Japan, but I'm going to talk about the ratings real quick. But I'll talk about it when we actually get there. So Raw had a 2.3 million viewers on Monday. AEW had 1.4 million, and SmackDown or NXT had 875,000, I think it said, which is interesting, which is expected, especially for on Wednesday, is only because it was a debut show. So they have to be consistent, and it's one show. Like I said, we'll talk about it. The basement had to go drain his bladder. So, but so far what we've talked about, what do you guys think, Trek?
No, I think NXT was the best show of the week so far. I mean, that show actually hit it out of the park for me, and I'm glad I got to watch that first. And then I watched AEW the next day, which I thought was good, but I just thought NXT did it better.
What was the question?
Oh no, I just asked Trek what he thought about the stuff.
I'm bad enough.
What about you, Bobbit?
What was the question?
Oh my god. What did you think about what we've talked about so far? Anything you'd like to add? I know I haven't really asked you because we've been talking.
I get just I really don't have much to add. I thought NXT was a better show this week, and yeah, I'm ready to talk the ending of SmackDown already.
Well, I don't want to talk about the ending. I actually want to talk about the stage first off. I love the stage.
You realize we watched basically 9 hours of wrestling this week, and I've watched 9 hours of wrestling before when WWE does a pay-per-view, then Raw, then SmackDown, and this is the first time I don't feel burnt out from the product.
I agree.
Of wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. But to SmackDown, I'm gonna say that SmackDown has the best stage of any promotion.
Yep.
Love the stage. It's an homage to the very first one, I guess, which I can get behind. Paying an homage to something old is fine, as long as they don't make it centric to the show.
Well, I
If
mean,
that
you look at
makes
this
sense.
week. You look at this week. NXT is NXT. AEW is AEW. The stages haven't really changed. Raw changed to whatever, but SmackDown's changed. Like when certain entrances just look very good with that stage. It's busy as fuck. The stage, just if you look at it, but the way that like they run the LED screens and the entrances.
Mm-hmm.
It does help. Like I loved Brock's and I loved New Day's entrance on that stage.
Okay. I can get behind that. The opening to the show, although The Rock coming out, I like what this show did with the nostalgia. They didn't have every single one of them come out and cut a fucking promo like they usually fucking do. I can understand. And everybody's like, why is The Rock the only one that gets to be out there? If you listen to his fucking promo when he said this show was named after a catchphrase of mine, that's why The Rock was out there and the only one that should have ever cut a promo. Stone Cold did not need to fucking be there.
The Rock's popularity made that show possible, which is why he's the one that should be there, not Hulk Hogan, not anybody else. He's the one that should be there.
The thing that I did like is that they were there, but they only were in the audience. They did it like NXT does it, like when fucking Finn Balor or Charlotte, Becky show up for like the Mae Young Classic or to a takeover where they come back and are in the audience. I don't mind that. I actually, that's the kind of stuff that does not bother me. What bothered me is they go from The Rock cutting a segment and then they do a match and then they go to a segment where Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair are cutting a promo. And then they go to another match and then they bring out fucking Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and fucking Tito Santana. That's the kind of shit that I just can't get behind and makes no sense. And then
that's what made
SmackDown. They do another
SmackDown.
match, and then to end the show, they have the Undertaker at the end of the show. I don't want that. I don't want.
That's what this iteration of SmackDown made it feel different than Raw, because that is exactly what would happen on Raw. Now, with the actual beginning of the show was Vince and Stephanie coming out and saying, "Welcome." I don't both hate and like this because they didn't do more than that, and I feel like the only reason they came out is because it's Vince's product and Stephanie's basically going to take over once he leaves. They want to show themselves, make sure that people are aware that they're there, but they did it in such a small segment where it was good. I hated the fact that they were there, but I also was okay with the fact that it was just to say hello and that's it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it at all.
The other nitpick I have was with the entrance, and I know you guys we talked about New Year's. Like, well, they can change that, or they're going to do away with that. They had to put a decent amount of money into making that video montage of the beginning of SmackDown, and it featured certain talents that were about to have a draft, and they're either showing their cards for who's going to be on SmackDown, and I can easily believe the people that were part of that opening of SmackDown will stay on SmackDown.
Right.
But
I
feel like it kind of...
Yeah, they pretty much showed everybody on. And you got to remember the draft is coming up, so they're going to probably show everybody on that.
Well, the opening of SmackDown started with Kofi Kingston walking through something, so they really featured him, and they featured Roman Reigns very heavily in that. So unless they're going to come out with a change in video package after, which is possible, it just seems like a lot of money to put into just one night.
And Basement, it's also very possible that they just did that opening for just the 20th anniversary of SmackDown.
That could be.
Right.
We'll see. I didn't mind the opening. I didn't mind the Vince and Stephanie thing. I don't know how I feel about the music. Again, I'm a fan of AC/DC, but I don't know if I like the music. I don't know. I didn't really.
I felt like wrestling
that kind of muted the music, so you couldn't really tell that the song was just like, "Are you ready?" And it's basically the song, "Are you ready to get your ass kicked?"
Okay.
I always felt like wrestling actually did a lot better when they relied on bands I haven't heard a lot of or anything like that. Just like it has to be rock, first of all.
Yes.
Because any other type of music really doesn't work for wrestling, unfortunately. But I always loved when they used to feature bands that were kind of a bit, not necessarily underground, but not necessarily like the most well-known bands you've ever heard.
Right.
Well, case in point, the band Underground.
Come on, Basement.
Song for Raw a few years ago.
Oh, come on, Basement. You don't hear Hardy B going booty, 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 booty.
Well, even the fucking what was the fucking WrestleMania shit with that guy,
Pitfall.
Flow Rider.
Give me the green light.
The amount of times I heard that, I wanted to shoot myself in the fucking throat.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So the first match, well, it started out with Rock cutting a promo, or well, actually Becky Lynch came out,
And then Baron Corbin.
then Baron Corbin came out, and then The Rock came out, and then they cut a promo. I mean, I kind of listened, but I was more listening to The Rock. The Rock is funny as fuck, still can cut a fucking promo. I was waiting for, did he do the It Doesn't Matter thing?
Yes.
Did he? Because I don't remember him
Yeah.
saying
He
it.
set it up, but Becky finished it.
Oh, yeah, okay. What killed me for that was when Becky opened her fucking mouth. I don't know. Just recently, Becky is just, they've, I don't know, man. I just can't get behind her. It's just like, God. Whenever she talks, it's like she needs a drink of water in between each sentence. Because her mouth gets dry, because she does that whole. It's like I don't want to fucking see that. It's like her mouth is dry. Get the woman a glass of water. She's parched. That's the problem I have with Becky. I can't get behind her with her promos.
See, for me, like I actually didn't mind Becky in this iteration because The Rock spoke 90% of what was spoken. The only time Becky spoke was when she had to pipe in with her 2 cents, and it wasn't bad. It was actually adding to the comedy, and I thought Baron Corbin did the same thing. Both of them did decent in this promo with The Rock. He took helm and spoke 90% of the time, and they piped in when they needed to, which is why I was okay with it.
Right.
Becky falls apart when she has to speak for too long.
Yeah.
Just like Baron Corbin falls apart when he has to speak for too long.
Right. And so yeah, you're right. Just give me a second.
So The Rock came out there, and I know he came out and he made a bunch of he basically did a bunch of setups for jokes that Becky hit home, and then
Right.
Baron Corbin did his best job. They talked about his testicles, and I know Baron Corbin said, I have perfectly adequate testicles,
Right.
and that got me going. And a lot of people said that this was the burial of Baron Corbin and the King of the Ring, and I didn't think that at all.
Nope. I actually think it is a rub for Baron Corbin.
How many people after Rock has not been part of the WWE has shared the ring with The Rock? That is where the rub happens.
Yep.
Getting a rock bottom is actually like a badge that he should wear.
Yep. And he probably will, because he'll probably mention it next week. Or he'll mention it Monday. So for people to say, and I did see that on Twitter, they just buried Baron Corbin. No, they didn't. They did not bury Baron Corbin at all.
Like, so all those people that are saying they buried Baron Corbin, what would you prefer happen? Baron Corbin, end of days, The Rock? Like, is that going to be exactly what they want to do when they're selling the first SmackDown? And like we said earlier, The Rock was the reason the show is a show. So is it really make sense for him to do that? And people saying he was like, this moment was what buried King of the Ring. King of the Ring buried itself. This has nothing to do with this segment. King of the Ring killed itself while it was happening.
Yep. Agreed. So Baron Corbin is not buried, and neither is another superstar, which we will talk about that in a second. I can't wait to fucking talk about this shit. The show kind of drug on a little bit in the first hour, and then the second hour picked up momentum. Now, I'm going to say this. Was it fucking 10 stars? No. This show was typical WWE fanfare, which is what they do all the fucking time. And like Basement said, there's really nothing to build to. And the problem of having Hell in a Cell here, this close to the debut of the show kind of hurts it, because what are you? I ultimately think that Hell in a Cell, the matches that are going to be there, probably going to get a few more matches. But the 4 matches that they have now, those are the main matches that everybody's going to be worried about. Everything else will be filler. A lot of matches in WrestleMania are filler. The only matches that matter are the ones where the really big storylines happen. You go look at any fucking WrestleMania and you see it. Why is this match happening? Well, it's just that it's filler. And then they'll follow it up with one of the main stories that they have. That's the way WWE's been. That's the way they've always been, and that's how they will always be. They are more about fanfare and the spectacle of things and moments than they are about actual storytelling and wrestling.
I mean, for SmackDown, like as a whole, for me, it just hit the mark that it needed to for its movement to Raw, movement to Fox. But
Mhm.
the thing that kills me is all the people that shit on it on Twitter and everywhere else. What did you expect it to be?
Yep.
And I know we're fresh off a Wednesday that had NXT and it was very solid. AEW was good. SmackDown, did you expect SmackDown to be NXT, a different show entirely? They're moving from one provider to the other. Does that mean they have to change what they've been doing? Does that mean they will change what they've been doing? No, it is what it is. But they did a good job with the fact that it is what it is, in my honest opinion. They like you said, they limited the nostalgia to being The Rock is the nostalgia act. Everybody else is kind of a nostalgia background.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things that made the show feel different than it was when it was on USA. Fox has a bit more flexibility in terms of who they know and who they can bring in, which helps them. SmackDown wasn't anybody out there that's going to see SmackDown is shit. And say AEW is fucking 9 out of 10, SmackDown's 3. I don't think you actually know what wrestling is.
Exactly. Agreed. 190%. And they can't just stop doing what they were doing and move on from things, because if they do that, then why in the fuck are they doing Hell in a Cell? Why? If you want them to move on away, why in the fuck is the Fiend wrestling Seth Rollins? Please, somebody tell me.
In all honesty,
go ahead.
If they're gonna do everything different, Hell in a Cell shouldn't even be happening. The Fiend shouldn't be wrestling Seth Rollins. The reason it's happening is because they have to hold up that same standard that they've done for years now, where they're gonna have pay-per-views that are themed whatever. Mm-hmm. It's Halloween. It has to be Hell in a Cell, and we have to feature the scariest character we have, which unfortunately leads to the death of fucking Bray Wyatt. Just for Halloween, which is super unfortunate. But when it comes down to it too, a lot of people were saying, oh, SmackDown did this and this, but they didn't even build to Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell, the build you have is the build you're going to get. They're going to reset afterwards. Do you really want to see their move to Fox be about making last-minute matches for Hell in a Cell? Does anybody?
No.
It's fucking retarded. Like, that argument was one of the stupidest I've seen online.
Yeah, I don't know, Alpha. I mean, I can see your point, but I don't. What else? What other stars are there on that roster? They can only showcase so many people. They have 100 and some odd fucking people on their fucking roster. If we showed every fucking superstar, and I seen it on Twitter, I seen they showcased the same thing and had 32 other fucking stars sitting in the back with their thumb up their ass. Well, what the fuck do you want him to do? You want Titus O'Neil to come out and wrestle Apollo Crews? What kind of fucking match would that fucking be?
It's the same thing as saying, oh, I see a roster. Okay, I want the worst pitcher to get as much pitching time as the best pitcher.
No, you don't.
You don't, because the overall product is going to suffer for it.
Yes.
There's people there to fill certain roles. Titus O'Neil is an ambassador for WWE. That is his role.
Yep.
He has to be featured every now and then on TV to keep relevancy. That's how they use him. I don't want to
He's
see
excellent in
him
that
wrestle
role.
every night. I don't
No.
want to see him, period.
No,
But
and
when
I
he
get
is
that.
seen, there's a
just
reason
using-
behind it.
Yeah, I'm just using him as an example. Because
But there's so many guys like the Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel. Those are guys that are situational.
yeah, you don't need to fucking showcase. If they showcase different wrestlers each week, they wouldn't have any time to build any fucking storylines at all, ever. They tried that a long time ago when Raw first started and realized it wasn't fucking working. So they went to storyline building on Raw. Because Raw never used to be about storyline building. Now it is. And has been for, 1995?
Yeah.
I'm up to 1995. I'm almost up to the point where we're at in Wrestling Memories. They didn't start doing storyline building until fucking mid 1994. And that show had been on for over a year. So when people say, "Well, I want to see new stars on there," well, for what? If you're gonna do that, have fucking Roman Reigns. Put him in the match with Roman Reigns then. Look at the match that he had that fucked his fucking nuts. I can't think of his name now because he hasn't been on TV. No, fuck Eric Rowan. Buddy Murphy.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't win, but he put on a hell of a match. Roman Reigns is going to beat whoever you put in front of him ultimately. And I hate to say that, they're still doing the same thing with him. They're just doing it subtly.
So with Alpha, what Alpha's saying is like he'd like to see different wrestlers every week, and to a point, I agree with that. It's just you cannot build actual storylines. So in matches on Raw or SmackDown that really don't have a storyline behind them, that's where they put these guys. That's when you see these guys. But to have like a completely clean slate from one week to the other is going to cause the audience to not understand. You basically have 2 weeks then to build the storyline to a pay-per-view.
Which
that's Vince Russo booking.
That's Vince Russo booking. You don't want that. And if you do, I don't understand why you do. But, and I'm not saying that you do. I'm just saying you can't, like, if you want to see different guys wrestle, do like what they did with Buddy Murphy, the prime example. Have Roman Reigns, he might beat the guy, just because if the guy puts on a phenomenal match, is Buddy Murphy buried? No, because he actually had a phenomenal match with Roman Reigns and then come out and then beat Daniel Bryan the next week. So he's not buried. So,
but there's ways to do this too, and they've done it. Like Cedric Alexander, for instance, has been involved in feuds that are happening on the main roster, but he's been the third wheel in like a 3-on-3 or a tag team. That's how you. But that's basically how you can showcase different talent.
Yes.
But eliminating the main feuds that you want to build for a storyline in favor of just showcasing talent is not necessarily what I want to see. And I think the crux of his argument might lie on, and I'm just thinking this, I don't want to see the same match I saw last week this week. And I agree with you 100%. And this is where they can use that other talent involved in a tag match or a 3-on-3 or something like that.
Exactly.
Don't overdo it, but every now and then you can do that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have Roman Reigns. Oh, sorry. You don't have to have Seth Rollins fighting every night.
No.
He has to be on the show or should be on the show every night because he's an active Raw. Like, Seth Rollins cannot pull a Brock Lesnar and not be there for months and show up.
Right.
He has to be on the show every night, but he doesn't need to be wrestling. And the problem with Seth Rollins, he wrestles every night, and some nights he wrestles twice. That is not needed.
So, yeah. The show was okay. It moved on. The first actual match was Becky Lynch and Charlotte versus Sasha and Bailey. Like, what are they doing with Bailey and Sasha? They're supposed to be heels, but they act like
So the Bailey turn,
fucking.
and I think I said this, and I'm pretty sure we all did. The turn of Bailey hurt the turn of Sasha, and it continues to do so
Yeah.
because Bailey is put Bailey back in NXT, please God. She
Actually,
cannot be a heel or a face on the main roster anymore.
I hate to tell you this, she's so ingrained in the main roster, and she's so ingrained with the Four Horsemen that they aren't going to do it.
Right now they can't do it, but
No,
she
I don't
does
think
need to
they'll. I
return.
don't think that. I don't.
And I'm like, what? She a heel? Is she a face?
Yeah,
Do I care? I don't because
I'm with you. I'm with you. I
I never cared about Bailey on the main roster. She was a flop since the get go.
No, I agree with you. I just think that she's so ingrained with the Four Horsewomen that she will never not be in a match or associated with them or on the main roster or on Raw or SmackDown or wherever the fuck they are.
The
If they
thing is,
all go back to NXT, Bailey's going right with them.
Bailey has not been given the chance to build an audience like she has had in NXT, and her whole she's like several other wrestlers. The whole way she builds a character is in ring on what she can do in ring, and she hasn't been given the chance to do that, and she cannot cut it outside of in ring work.
I agree,
and that's on her 100%.
I agree. So let's get to the thing that everybody's been talking about since it happened last night, because there really wasn't too much else on the show. Seth Rollins and Shinsuke had a match, but again, the fucking Fiend came out, and Seth Rollins ran to the place where the Fiend has been attacking people.
Oh God!
Why? I would have stayed in the fucking ring, because Shinsuke was in the ring. That's so stupid. You guys are fucking idiot. Seth Rollins is a fucking dumbass.
Well, this is a telltale sign. Like Bray Wyatt overexposed, and led to a segment that actually hurts his character. This is like the third. They've been hurting his character since fucking it was announced he was gonna fight Seth Rollins. Since the first time he attacked Seth Rollins, they've been hurting his character every time this has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Too soon, too much. WWE knows this is a staple for WWE. Too soon, too much.
Yep. So the match that was supposed to be the WWE Championship was the main event, and I'm thinking they're going to give it 15 minutes. I didn't think that it should last 15 minutes. I figured that it should have only lasted 5 minutes at most. That's what I thought the match was going to be. So they interviewed Kofi Kingston, and I didn't hear the interview.
He basically said, "I'm always the underdog."
I'm always the underdog, and didn't she ask him what his game plan was? I think she asked him what his game plan was, and it's to be fast and quick. And so he comes out, or Brock Lesnar comes out first. Kofi Kingston comes out. The bell fucking rings, and Kofi Kingston jumps into Brock Lesnar's arms like he's a long lost lover, and then he gets an F5, and the match is over.
So the big problem I have with this is this makes the whole Seth Rollins thing that much more ridiculous. It was already, like, when it happened, it was fucking ridiculous. It's continued to be ridiculous. Seth Rollins is literally like fucking the master of the universe at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like how now Kofi Kingston gets one F5 and loses in 10 seconds. So Kofi Kingston and Seth Rollins should never have a match that lasts more than 1 second.
Right.
Am I wrong in saying that? Because they've just elevated Seth Rollins again.
Yeah.
And people don't want to pay attention to the fact that Seth Rollins beat Brock. And yeah, they're trying to take it's the goldfish mind of a wrestling fan.
Mm-hmm. Or
that doesn't matter. We're building up Brock back to be what he was. But I remember when he lost because Seth Rollins fucking channeled Christ.
Channel Christ.
So I've been saying this on Twitter for about 24 hours now, and not really arguments that I've had. People saying they've buried Kofi Kingston. They've done this to Kofi Kingston. It's a damn shame what they did to Kofi Kingston. I seem to remember, and Daniel Bryan did this himself. I seem to remember at WrestleMania, and I can't remember which WrestleMania it was, Sheamus beats Daniel Bryan in 8 seconds. Is Daniel Bryan buried?
Yes.
Daniel Bryan is buried.
He went on to have like one of the best fucking things that's ever happened to him.
Everybody out there that's saying that Kofi Kingston is buried, you're a fucking moron. Because in no way, shape, or fucking form is Kofi Kingston buried.
Okay, so for all the people...
Go ahead.
All the people that are saying Kofi Kingston... Okay, so should Kofi Kingston have won?
No.
And for all the people that out there are saying no, but he should have put up effort or tried a little bit more. I feel like I'm not against that idea, but I'm also like not against the idea of how it happened. You have to realize what they need to do is they're not building up Kofi Kingston with this. They're trying to rebuild Brock Lesnar, who they fucked.
Yes. Kofi Kingston is already a made man. He's a made man. Kofi Kingston's title run is almost as bad as Jinder Mahal's was.
I agree. It was terrible. No, like I said to Heather the other night, I'm like, the only thing I remember from his run was when he won the championship.
Yeah.
Other than that, he faced Randy Orton in 2 excruciatingly slow, shitty matches. And that's on booking, not necessarily. I'm not putting the blame on Kofi Kingston for that. It's just bottom line is he wasn't equating to a draw the way they wanted to use him, so they have to move it away from him.
Yep.
Brock Lesnar was always going to be the champion on Fox on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. But why take that off Kofi to put it on someone else to lose it to Brock? This is the reason Brock lost to Seth Rollins, because they were going to put Brock on Fox for the Fox draw.
If I was Brock, I would have beaten Seth Rollins, and I would have fucking had Paul Heyman in the middle of the fucking ring, starting to talk, and then Brock Lesnar ripping the microphone out of his hand and says, "I've beaten everybody here on Raw. I'm going to fucking SmackDown." Well, I didn't even say SmackDown. I'm going to SmackDown. It wouldn't have hurt Seth. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%. Seth Rollins should have never beaten Brock Lesnar.
Not the way he did.
I don't think he should have beaten him, period. I think Brock should have just said, fuck it, I'm done with this title. I'm going to go over to the other brand with different talent to face them.
Yep, because I've beaten everybody here.
Though it's kind of stupid. It's less stupid than fucking Jesus Christ coming down from the heavens.
Right? So then what we get next is Rey Mysterio comes out in a sling from the ass whooping that he fucking got from Brock Lesnar. And alongside of him, everybody's like, it's Dominic. But it was Cain Velasquez. And the pop that Cain Velasquez got was pretty good. And it's way more of a... For people to sit there, and here's another thing that fucking annoys the shit out of me. I'm not a UFC fan, but UFC is legitimately a combat sport, which wrestling is legitimately a combat sport. So kind of And boxing, really what UFC is a combination of boxing and wrestling, is exactly what it is. They fight in a cage, in an octagon, okay? It's literally boxing and fucking wrestling combined. It's mixed martial arts. Essentially, wrestling could be a mixed martial art. In fact, it is considered a martial art, okay? So for people out there saying that fucking UFC, well, why are they bringing in fucking UFC people? Have you guys seen Cain Velasquez wrestle? Go look it up on YouTube. I'm pretty sure he's not gonna just come to the ring and put a fucking rear naked chokehold on somebody, okay? Or he's gonna fucking come out and he's gonna fucking put somebody in a fucking knee bar for 10 minutes.
So you remember the hype Ronda Rousey got? Was there
Yes.
this much? This is the double standard of like negativity. It's kind of the same thing that's happening. Though Ronda Rousey, and I agreed, like she was the face of MMA for a while. She's much more popular than Cain Velasquez. There's a storyline already built with Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar.
Exactly.
And bottom line is like Kofi Kingston was just fodder to get to a storyline. I like some people say, oh, they did him dirty, they did him this, they did him that. You don't put a title championship, you don't put the WWE championship on someone and have them hold it for half a year to 8 months.
Mhm.
Just say, oh, he was done dirty. He was the champion for 8 months.
Yep.
He is unfortunately being used in a storyline, but for all the people that what did they want Kofi Kingston to wrestle for an extra couple minutes? I could agree with that, whatever, but at the same time, does it matter?
It's still going to be the same decision. Either way, I don't think. I think fans would have been
The thing is,
pissed
if
off.
Brock,
He was
if
going to
Brock's-
lose. He was going to lose either way. So the fans were going to be mad whether he had a great match, a great 20-minute match, or whether or not he got beat in fucking 10 seconds. People are
the
going to be
reason
mad
that
either
it
way.
happened though is if Brock did not squash him, he doesn't look as strong as they want him to look.
Exactly.
This is the reason it happened, and it doesn't have anything to do with anything else. So if people don't want to understand that and just want to be fucking a bunch of dumbass marks out there that are like, I'm not thinking about the business side, I'd rather just think about the entertainment. Well, go ahead and think about the entertainment, but don't talk shit if you're not willing to understand exactly how the product works.
Yep.
Exactly.
I don't mind it. Brock Lesnar, to me, and for people to say, well, I hate, you know why most people are hating fucking WWE? It's like fucking 10 things that pissed me off. You know why people fucking hated fucking SmackDown? Because fucking Brock Lesnar won the title. That is the
I think they
reason.
hated SmackDown because AEW happened half the time.
Well, that too. But that is one of the reasons why people are shitting all over the fucking show. Get a fucking clue. Get a fucking life. I mean, come the fuck on. If you're gonna fucking shit, Brock Lesnar is the most legit champion WWE has.
He's the most legit.
Seth Rollins is Becky's bitch.
Exactly. Bottom line is he's like Brock Lesnar holds the mantle of the last of the old guard of legitimate wrestlers. The guy can and is, and because he's so like secretive in his own life, he can easily pull off the kayfabe side. Everything you see in the ring, everything WWE does with Brock Lesnar is everything the fans believe. They know nothing about him otherwise. And that's why he's as legit as he is. They've booked him. They handled Brock as good as any company could ever handle him. People are, oh, he's not on every show. That's a detriment to his character, just like it's a detriment to Bray Wyatt.
It's actually a detriment to the fucking show. The reason I say that is I don't want Brock Lesnar being... Half the people that fucking watch wrestling watch UFC. Is Daniel Cormier at every fucking show having a match with somebody? No. The champion should not be. He should be
A spectacle.
a spectacle, not a fucking pawn in a game.
Well,
If that makes
60% of the
sense.
60% of the wrestling audience and the people that are so vocal on Twitter are going to watch wrestling for a year and walk away and be vocal about it because they have to bitch about something.
Yeah.
Bottom line is Brock Lesnar is a draw. It can be proven in ticket sales. It can be proven in the fact that the guy lives his character because he lives away from the media. He is not doing some bullshit on Twitter. Nobody knows much about the guy except for the character that you see. He is a legitimate champion. He is a legitimate fighter in MMA. He is a legitimate beast. Kofi Kingston comes out throwing If I was to tell you and you never watch wrestling, well, there's this guy that's gonna come out and he's been a MMA champion and he's obliterated basically most of the main roster, and his opponent's gonna be the guy that comes out prancing, throwing pancakes. Like, what in the literal fuck is everybody smoking?
Yep. I don't know, but people need to fucking stop and realize that Kofi Kingston only won the title because WWE wanted to give everybody a wrestling moment. That was Kofi Kingston's WrestleMania fucking moment. The fans got what they wanted. WWE got what they wanted. Everybody's fucking happy. And for what? For what? How long was the title reign for? 5 months? 6 months? A 6-month title reign that was almost as bad as Jinder Mahal's.
But the thing is, too, like, they gave him the title for the moment, knowing full well what was going to happen.
Yeah.
What was memorable from this last 6 months? For the most part, they've been treading water. The only thing I remember is the huge misstep with Seth Rollins, and that was only to get Brock Lesnar off of Raw. They could have done it a different way. They went with giving Seth Rollins the rub. Fine, whatever. I can get past it now. Then, in the moment, I was like, fuck this whole shit. Now I see a bit more clearly. Things have played out. Brock Lesnar needed to move to SmackDown for this specific reason. The last 6 months of wrestling has been super forgettable because the last 6 months of wrestling has not mattered to the company. They needed to toe the line to get the same audience there until they made that move. Now things not necessarily going to change and you're going to see a different company. Now certain things can be in motion where not every week it's like, who gives a fuck? Whatever's happening's happening. We're going to do as much as we can to make things make sense, but at the same time, they're not going to make sense.
So that ends all of the wrestling that we watched, or I watched this week, or that pretty much everybody here watched. I didn't watch NXT UK, so I don't know.
Most of them didn't either.
I'm gonna do New Japan here real quick, but we might as well talk about it. Let's talk about the ratings, and I just want to talk briefly about the ratings and how AEW beating NXT is misleading, only because it was their first show. It was a debut of a new show, so of course AEW is going to win. If NXT continues to put out good quality entertainment and content like they did Wednesday, now I know that they're not going to put out the same continuous great stuff like that. What we seen freaking Wednesday from NXT, you're probably not always going to see, and I'm not saying that. But if they continue to give us good stuff, good storylines, great wrestling, which they have never not given us. If you've watched NXT on the 1 hour show, it's been okay. But now they're able to tell stories with a 2 hour show. They're able to evolve storylines. If they can evolve storylines as long as they don't become too gimmicky and too cheesy, like SmackDown and Raw had been or have been, NXT will ultimately get that 1.4 million, and AEW will probably get that 875,000. That's the way I see it. That's the way I look at it. However, I will say this. I think there's more fans out there that watch wrestling that are let on. Because Raw did a 2.3, okay? SmackDown at its peak had 4.2 million viewers. And that is an 80% increase over the last 2 years.
I think a lot of that, like Gina said
Is-
earlier, is the people that couldn't watch it legitimately
Right.
that are joining in there. I think you might get a solid like half a mil of people that have been watching in some other way that's not tracked.
Yep. So that being said, there's people out there still watching wrestling. I mean, good God. Let's see, 1.2, 1.4, 2.3, that's 3.7, 800 or 900. That's what? 4.2?
I think the big
8
focus on the
million
ratings
people,
thing.
and I'm pretty sure they're the same, but there's 8 million viewers that watched wrestling that was tracked just in this week's shows alone. Imagine worldwide.
So
Worldwide.
the one thing too is like a lot of people like, oh, we watch AEW, we watch NXT. All of a sudden, people jump to numbers. It's
Yes.
not a ratings war.
No.
There's been literally 2 shows.
Yep.
This was a battle between 2 shows. A battle does not equate to a war.
No.
Talk to me in 6 months. Talk to me in a year
Yep.
when numbers have evened out, when there's an expected understanding of why things are happening when they're happening. Right now, it's like, oh, everybody's like, oh, yeah, AEW is the best thing ever because like these fucking rabid AEW fans are disgusting, and the rabid WWE fans are the same. Like anybody that's just like so ingrained in a belief that one thing is better than the other, then they're blinded by that ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Should just shut the fuck up and realize that they're not probably a wrestling fan. They're more ingrained in the idea of wrestling versus wrestling.
Yep.
Not that wrestling has finally given us something to watch week in, week out where we can kind of be entertained by it.
Right.
I'm not literally putting AEW against NXT. It's been put against, they've been put against each other for me, but I don't need to see it that way. AEW was good. NXT was, the first match of NXT blows anything else out of the water. That happened all week.
Mhm.
So that's the winner, clear winner for me.
Mhm.
Plus the end, like NXT was just the best product on WWE, or sorry, best wrestling product on television the whole week.
Yep.
AEW and SmackDown, I kind of put together for varying reasons that are my own opinion. Raw can eat a dick.
Yep. Raw was Raw was. I mean, okay. Yeah. I said this last night. I said this to Heather. I've said it to Basement. I've said it to Bobbit. I've said it to Trek. I've said it to Gina. I've said it to Dory. I've said it to people on Twitter. Wrestling, SmackDown didn't win. Raw didn't win. AEW didn't win. NXT didn't win. You know who won? We did. The fans. The fans won the fucking war, okay? Does that make everybody fucking happy? It's not even a fucking war between two wrestling promotions. We won. We won the fucking war. We are getting what we want. And it doesn't matter which fucking promotion it is. If you don't like a fucking promotion, fine. I don't want to fucking hear about it. How WWE was a pile of shit. WWE wasn't. Raw, but SmackDown was not a pile of shit. I don't know what the fuck people were watching. SmackDown was not a pile of shit. Raw was, but SmackDown was not a pile of shit. Okay? NXT definitely was not a pile of shit. AEW definitely was not a pile of shit. Okay? So both sides of the spectrum. And I put it out as a hashtag. I put up 2 hashtags last night. And it's a pot shot at the fucking marks in the stands. Hashtag AEW cock gobblers. Hashtag WWE cock gobblers. Because that's all you fucking people are.
Well,
if you can't be a fan of everything, if you can't be a fan of wrestling, I don't want to even talk wrestling with you.
So
because it makes no sense.
It's basically a problem of like how people are nowadays anyway. Something has to be shit for something to be good, and vice versa. Like there always everybody wants to take sides in something. There always has to be something shit for something to be good. So NXT has to be shit for AEW to be good. Like NXT was great. AEW was good. SmackDown was okay or good, I guess. Raw was shit. Okay, I'm just looking at what I'm seeing. I'm not looking at the comparison so much between the things. Am I watching it? Am I entertained? Yes. Do I have gripes about everything? Yes. It's how you should watch something. It's like, why does one movie have to be good in order for? Why does one movie have to be shit for another movie to be good?
Right.
Like the mass public is fucking retarded. At this point in time, someone has to be the bad guy and someone has to be the good guy. Everything's like divided that way, and the media just like makes that happen constantly. And Twitter's part of that.
Yep. So that being said, I just wanted to touch on the ratings real quick. I don't care about the fucking rating. I don't care if fucking WWE doesn't give a shit if I fucking watch their show. They don't care.
But also, the ratings don't
They
indicate which
don't-
show was better.
It's
They
not,
just don't.
It's not like they sit there in their office going, I wonder if JP is going to watch Raw this week. Wonder if JP is going to watch AEW. They don't give a fuck about anybody individual. Anybody individual. The only thing they care about is lining their pockets with money, which they are doing and will continue to do and always will do. Because they are the standard bearer, and I'm gonna say it again, they are the standard bearer for sports entertainment. Sports and entertainment. So there. That's all I got to say on that.
And looking at numbers this early in the game, it's like you either don't understand how numbers work or you're just looking for an arguing point that literally has no weight.
Yeah.
Because someone's going to throw numbers at me when it's the first television show. It's like, numbers are a trend, not necessarily a moment.
And
like, what the fuck?
I can tell you right now, and I'm going to tell you this right now, if this becomes another ratings war, wrestling is fucking going to die.
So a batter comes out and hits 4 for 4. Is he the best batter ever known to mankind?
Nope.
Exactly. So shut the fuck up about the ratings in a bubble.
Yep.
Look at them after the long term. Talk to me in a year, and then we can discuss how ratings matter. And all the people out there that are throwing numbers that people be like, oh, well, AEW did this. And fuck it. It doesn't matter. Right. Which show was actually better? What did you have more enjoyment watching? Talk to me about your opinions on that. Don't talk to me your opinions on numbers that mean nothing.
Yeah. I don't want a ratings war because if a ratings war happens, and I said it, and I don't know if everybody heard me, wrestling will die. Wrestling
but the thing is, a ratings
war, all of wrestling will die.
But here's the thing: WWE does not and should not care about ratings wars.
They don't,
because their products are literally available on demand the next day when it comes to NXT.
Yep.
It literally does not matter to them. This is why Netflix doesn't really air any of that shit because it doesn't matter. They can keep their own ratings to themselves or how many people watch something and then decide afterwards. They're not competing with anybody when it's on their own platform being aired for only whoever subscribed to their platform to watch.
Right. Yep.
Right, and Bruce Pritchard even said the Nielsen system is dead. It's pretty much a dead dinosaur that died years ago, and it should be changed. And the fact that they're starting to change it now, that shit doesn't matter now unless it's a sweeps month. That's when people start wetting themselves. Oh my god, this show did so well. It's like, yeah, and then last week before it was down 50%. So what you gotta say about that, fuckers?
Yeah. Let's talk about Edge real quick. I know this was a contention from last night. It was all over Twitter. Edge, people saying that Edge signed a WWE contract and was cleared to compete. Well, Edge came out and said, no, I'm not, and no, I'm not. So that being said, and if you're like, well, I don't know what that means. What that means is no, he's not cleared to wrestle, and no, he's not signed a new WWE contract. He's still under WWE contract, as far as I know. because he's
Yeah.
he's under a Legends contract. WWE will never. How do I say this? Edge is one of those superstars that, and I did get this last night. I don't ever want to see Edge have one more match if he was to ever come back. I don't want him to have one more. If he comes back, I want him to come back in a full-time capacity. It's the only way I want to ever. Yes, you heard Edge. Edge is not. It was all over Twitter last night, Rain, that Edge was coming back and that Edge had signed a new WWE deal and was cleared to wrestle. He came out and said, "No, I'm not," and "No, I'm not." So he is not coming back to wrestle, and he did not sign a new deal. He is already under contract with WWE on the Legends, on a Legends
I
contract.
believe so.
So he's not
Yeah,
he's not
he
going
is.
anywhere. He will never. I don't think he'll ever leave WWE because they've taken care of him. They paid for his fucking surgery.
And they're
I
paying
don't
for
want to
his
see
life.
Edge wrestle
You don't want to see Edge wrestle?
anymore. I don't want to see Edge wrestle
No.
anymore.
No.
I don't want to see The Rock wrestle anymore. I don't want to see Stone Cold wrestle anymore. These guys are retired. If they
Yep.
show up in something WWE is producing, then let them do it that way. I do like the thing is, especially Edge, because Edge was for the majority of his career a tag team, and when he wasn't, yeah, he was an individual talent. He just doesn't. The Rock holds more credence as an individual talent than Edge does. To what end is this happening? And just like JP said, if he's coming back, I want to see him wrestle constantly. I want to see him wrestle as like an actual talent, but I don't want to see him because that's not going to happen.
He can't spear anybody anymore. I mean,
Well, the Undertaker.
He did that one time, but that was he can't come out and spear people sometimes. He still has that spinal stenosis. And if he takes
Yeah.
one wrong move, he's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And I don't want that. I don't want to see
Yeah.
Edge at well, he's already in Hall of Fame, but I don't want to see Edge. He's 2 years younger than me. 45? Yeah, he's 45. He's 2 years younger than me. That's too soon.
The only like nostalgia act that I approve, and they overused him anyway, was the Undertaker. He wanted to go, he could go. It's because of the nature of his character that his still in ring could work, because his still in ring isn't in ring. What brings people back in seats is his entrance and his mystique. He might wrestle for 1 minute and it's okay. Edge necessarily couldn't. I don't want to see the same thing from Edge.
Right.
Goldberg did it, and it's because that's what his character always was. He wrestled for a couple minutes, and that was it. He did his 3 moves and fucking hit a locker, and that was it.
Right? Or hit a ring post. But anyway, yeah. So I just wanted to touch on that. I know that was a contention of a talking point last night, and he pretty much put a kibosh to it. He's not coming back to wrestle, and he did not sign a new WWE deal because he's already under contract. I don't know about the Edge and Christian show. I don't know if that's whatever.
That may be something they're in negotiation with as far as changing his deal, because they are trying to bring a podcast network into the WWE network.
Yes, I do know that. Anybody else got anything they would like to say? Real quick.
The only thing we have to talk about, I guess, is Hell in a Cell.
Right, but I got to talk about New Japan. Gina
Okay.
sent me the notes. King of Pro Wrestling begins on October 14th, and the main event is Evil versus Ibushi, Kota Ibushi, and it is for the G1 contract. Now they do this. Remember, I said they do this once a year, where they have a match where the person that has the contract puts it up on the line. That's one thing that they've always done, and I don't know why. But so if Evil beats Kota Ibushi in the main event at Wrestle Kingdom,
I mean, Ibushi better win because
Ibushi
I'd
should
much
win.
rather see that.
Yeah, Ibushi should. So, and Ray, we talked about that at the beginning of the show, actually. So, is Broken Hardy coming back since Jeff got locked up? I don't think Matt Hardy is going to wrestle on Raw or if as ever coming back as Broken Matt Hardy because he's enjoying doing what he's. And I've heard that he does do some live events.
Yeah.
But he is enjoying being producer, and he's stated on Twitter that he's moved on, not from the broken gimmick, but moved on to better things. And I do remember him putting a Twitter out, I'm moving on to the next stage of my life. In so many words, like Matt Hardy, like. But anyway,
I'm 100% okay with that. Matt Hardy, even if he comes back with the broken gimmick, it had its heyday.
Mhm.
It wasn't capitalized. Like he decided to go to WWE for the moment at WrestleMania for the last hurrah, and they tried to bring it, but it's never going to be what it was.
Right.
He's better off where he is now.
Right.
And he's a great
let
creative
him.
mind because he's the one who came up with that entire broken gimmick from start to finish over at TNA.
But Rain, we did talk about Jeff Hardy at the beginning of the show. If you want to go back, and it's like pretty much right away I actually started talking about Raw, and then we ended up talking about Jeff Hardy for like 20 minutes. Back to New Japan. Minoru Suzuki is going back to Pro Wrestling Noah. And apparently the CEO for New Japan, which is Maish, I can't pronounce his name, is unhappy about him leaving after wrestling. So there's some contention here, I guess.
I will say, and we talked about it before. It's like, for me, the one losing brand from everything that's happening in wrestling to NXT going to USA and being live to AEW becoming a regular show. New Japan has unfortunately taken 3 steps back. Like they were all the rave a couple years ago when they were putting on 6-star matches. But the problem is the talent got depleted that had them. Some of them got moved away that had people tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
New Japan is basically in the same spot they were when I didn't watch them.
Right.
And I will probably continue to not watch them because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll catch their big stuff. Like, I might actually check out this because I like people. I like Ibushi. Sonata and Okada are wrestling for. I know Basement loved him some Sonata. Are wrestling for the IWGP title. At the main. Those two are the 2 main events for this King of Pro Wrestling.
Sonata looks like, doesn't he? He's the guy that looks like a fucking albino yeti.
He looks like the Lion King.
No, he does. It's like too much hair from everywhere.
His beard connects to his, and all beards do, but it's like his is part of his hair.
It looks like his whole body goes through like a fucking blow dryer, and he shows up. He's getting like all of his hair is so straight as fuck.
Right.
I just don't understand his face, and that's where I land on that guy. I mean, Okada. He's fucking great.
Now,
and Ibushi is Ibushi, and he's great, and they should face each other.
Yes, I agree. So that being said, we can move on to one cell because that is the last thing that we need to talk about. And I will get Dory and Gina's picks for Hell in a Cell. I don't know what matches there, and I'm sure there's going to be matches added, but we are streaming it, so we will. And if you guys can't be here, I don't know if you can be there, Basement, but I will DM you and let you know what match is going on. If you have time to respond, it's fine.
I'll jump in once I get home.
Okay. Well, I know the show starts at 7 your time, I think.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Probably I'll get the last couple matches with you guys.
I am going to. I know of 4 matches, but I can tell you there's probably going to be 5 or 6. I honestly don't think that this show is going to be. They're probably going to do an hour pre-show, and I think I think they're going to still do the pre-shows, but I don't think they're going to be having matches between them, so they can cut out the fucking hour-long bullshit and have it a half hour. If you watch that blue carpet or red carpet, whatever the fuck you want to call it for SmackDown, that's how they should do pre-shows for these shows. They should do like a red carpet thing for fucking WrestleMania instead of having fucking matches during the fucking pre-show.
I agree. Make the
Treat
WrestleMania pre-show
it
1
like
hour, and then make WrestleMania 7 hours. Fuck it, I don't care.
Treat it like the fucking spectacle it is. Have a fucking red carpet. Makes sense to me. You'll get celebrities showing up for that shit, and I bet you gain fucking viewers out of it. Because people love them some fucking celebrities. Put the Kardashians' ass on there. I bet you'll get views.
At this
that
point in
shit.
time, I think their asses are like detachable from their body.
I know, right? But that being said,
we couldn't
Well,
afford
Kim-
Kim Kardashian. We couldn't afford Kim Kardashian, but we got her left butt cheek. How are you feeling tonight?
But anyway, so there is 4 matches that we know of, and I've speculated on a couple of them. I think that we are going to possibly get Shinsuke Nakamura might have a match, and then there was another match out there we talked about.
Rusev and Lashley.
Rusev and Bobby Lashley will probably be another,
That would probably be on
but it shouldn't be on the kickoff show. It should be on the fucking regular show because they only have 4 matches for the fucking entire show. So of those 4 matches, and I'm not going in any specific order, we'll go the SmackDown Women's Championship. Hold on a second. I think I swallowed that bug. It sucks. Charlotte versus Bayley for the SmackDown Women's title. Now, at SmackDown last night, Charlotte made Bayley tap out. Charlotte has only beaten Bayley. I don't think she's ever beaten Bayley.
She did.
When?
Bailey's first night as the champion, actually.
Okay. Well, that makes no sense, but whatever.
No, actually, it was before she became champion.
Well, I know that Charlotte lost the title to Bayley and then lost to her again and then lost to her again. But whatever.
Charlotte still had the belt, and Bayley came out and said, "I could count on one hand, how many times you beat me? 0." And then they had a non-title match,
Okay.
and then Charlotte beat her.
Okay. So, Basement, who you got?
Okay.
Or tell me about it, because there's only 4 fucking matches.
I actually think Charlotte's gonna win.
I agree. I think Charlotte's going to beat Bayley.
It's SmackDown on Fox. Charlotte's the better champion.
He is the more legit champion.
Bayley is going through a
Bayley could be a legit champion. They just fucking book her like.
thing is, Bayley is going through a heel turn and does not need the championship to accomplish that.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlotte's just she's the bigger draw.
She is. Bobbit, what about you?
I'm gonna go Charlotte.
Okay. Trek?
Yeah, I'm going with Charlotte.
Okay.
Oh, it's gotta be Charlotte.
Okay.
And if it's not, they missed it.
The next match is Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, and this will be the main event. I'm just calling it because Roman Reigns. Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns versus Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. I'm going with fucking Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan. Well, actually, I think Daniel Bryan is going to be the one that is actually behind the whole fucking thing.
I agree, because otherwise, fuck this whole situation.
I agree. So I'm going with Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. Because Daniel Bryan will like fucking turn on him. You can see it. It has that.
It has to happen. Otherwise, why would they waste fucking 3 goddamn years of my life making this happen?
Yep.
It's like for the payoff to be Eric Rowan. No, it's gonna be Daniel Bryan turning his back, and Roman Reigns will I don't know. Like, are we saying just like if Roman Reigns, if there's like disqualification, then he wins? I guess I don't know.
No, I think they're going to turn on him and just beat the hell out of him in the middle of the ring, and then he's going to get pinned.
Well, they've got to make a 3-hour show happen, so something else has to happen.
No, I know, and I don't know what that is because again, this is the problem with booking a show on based off of moving a show from fucking USA to Fox and having season premieres and anniversary shows.
So that being said, where we both are kind of on the same line of Daniel Bryan turning on Roman Reigns, who's gonna win or lose this match? Roman Reigns will win.
Okay, so if he's going to win, it's going to be by DQ. He's not going to beat all three of these guys.
Right.
I think he'll win, and then the turn will happen.
Okay.
Which makes no sense, but it's WWE.
Right.
It'll be a DQ, making it that Roman Reigns wins, but at the same time, Daniel Bryan will turn.
What are you going with, Heather?
I'm gonna go with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns win by DQ.
Okay.
And that's when it's revealed that Daniel Bryan is actually behind all of
it. Okay. Track.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I see Reigns wants the tag, and then Daniel Bryan drops off the apron, and then just smiles and waves them, and then Harper and Rowan just beat the shit out of him, don't care, and get DQ'd.
Okay. All right. Bobbit?
I think Daniel Bryan Roman Reigns is going to win. That's all.
And that's it. That's going to be the end of it.
He might be right. They might play this storyline longer than it needs to go.
Okay. What do you think the end game is for it then, Bobby? Do you think that's it?
I think they're going to end the storyline now that they have their Fox thing underway and all that.
So see, he's thinking.
He's got a point though with the brand split coming up, and if it does just end, this is a huge negative in my mind for WWE.
Very negative. Very negative.
But I can understand where you're coming from. And you're not necessarily wrong.
What track? Right up.
There have been ads for SmackDown event coming up in New York within the next 2 weeks, and they do have the main event being Reigns versus Rowan. So I think it's going to keep going.
I don't judge those things at all because they change at a moment's notice.
It's always subject to change.
It's always subject to change. The next match is the Raw Women's title, and that is Sasha Banks versus champion Becky Lynch. I want to pick Sasha, but I don't. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going with Sasha Banks. I think she's winning. I think she's taking the title off of fucking Becky. And they're moving Becky to fucking SmackDown again.
I also think Sasha Banks will win. And Sasha Banks will end up in a rivalry with fucking Rousey.
Interesting.
If she comes.
I think she's coming back, in all honesty. But I also agree with you that like Becky will go to SmackDown to face Charlotte.
But don't you think that they want Ronda Rousey on Fox?
They can't put everybody on Fox. That's the thing.
Well,
Rock is completely. I'm pretty sure it was like, well, you'll get Brock, but you won't get Rousey.
Okay. I'm just asking.
I don't think they'll get both Brock and Rousey, so I think Sasha wins in the Hell in a Cell.
Okay. And she finally holds the title for more than a week.
Provided she isn't injured.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to look out for that. Hopefully, she doesn't get injured again.
Does she have any vacation days coming up?
She might. Heather?
I'm going Sasha. It's time.
It's time to get the fucking belt off of Becky.
Yeah.
She's gonna move her to Fox.
Man, but like I say Sasha, but there's like this sneaking suspicion that Becky's not going to lose. Like I'm 70-30, Becky's gonna keep it, but I'm going with the hope that she
Yes.
loses it.
Yep. Trek.
I think Sasha Banks wins it.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to that, or?
No, I think Basefit's right. I think Rousey is coming back. They've been mentioning her an awful lot lately, for what
She's
I've
on
seen,
Total
and
Divas.
especially
Everybody seems.
especially with Total Divas. I think
You know what?
that they
Fuck it.
really are going to.
I'm going back. I'm going to change mine. I'm going back with Becky.
Okay. If that's the case, then they need to move Sasha Banks to SmackDown. Bobbitt?
I want to go Sasha, but I'm really hoping it's Sasha.
Okay. I mean, I'm with Basement. But I don't.
It's this is like one of those ones where there's a person that should win it, but then there's also the fucking John Cena factor.
Yeah.
Plus, when has the game come out yet or no?
It comes
No,
out.
it's coming
it
out
comes
in
out
like
the 23rd, I think.
That's also why I'm picking Becky. That's a 20% factor right there.
Well, if that's the case, then Roman Reigns needs to have a title too.
No,
I agree.
No.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're gonna base them having her be the champion because she's on the cover of a game, then put the title on fucking Roman Reigns too.
Well, technically, she would have been the only person on the title of the game if they felt confident in doing that.
No, I get what you're saying, but I
think Roman Reigns was just added for like the fact that it's not just going to be. We don't want to market a game with the pure image of a woman for a wrestling game, so they had to add him because of his popularity with the people that they think play games.
Yeah,
or the age
Not
group.
only that, the leukemia thing. His struggles with leukemia.
Well, I
Well,
think
if-
most people don't go to buy video games thinking like, oh
If
man,
Vince-
this video game, this person on the title struggled with leukemia. I gotta buy this game.
People with leukemia will go buy it because of that.
What kind of percentage of population are we looking at here? We really got to adhere to the leukemia fan base.
if Vince had it his way, Roman Reigns would be on the cover every fucking. But anyway.
Yeah. No, I
wouldn't
think
mind
Roman
that.
Reigns would just add it to the because the majority of game players are men. They're gonna add him there for that reason. I don't think, but I also think she's gonna keep the title for that reason.
I wouldn't mind having a Roman Reigns nightlight.
Bob, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. What would it look like?
I don't know.
It could just be his logo.
Yeah, I was gonna say his logo.
So here's the final match, and you're gonna fucking hate me.
This is a clusterfuck.
The Hell in a Cell, and by the way, Sasha Banks and Becky are in Hell in a Cell too. So I don't know if they'll do them back to back. So I think Sasha and Becky might actually
Will open the show.
One of them two is gonna kick off the show.
It's gonna be Sasha and Becky that open the show because it's Halloween season.
Yep. Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt for the Universal title. Basement?
I hate this match.
I don't ever want this match to happen. Well, it's not that I
No.
don't ever want it to happen. I just don't want it to happen now. I know
Outside
why
of the fact that I don't want it to happen, they're killing Bray Wyatt. Outside of all those facts, who's going to win this match? Oh man, I gotta go with. Oh man, I'm like 50-50 on this. I am actually, unfortunately, going to go with Bray Wyatt.
Okay.
Because it's only the beginning of October. That is actually what I came down to decide that.
Really? Trek?
Which is sad.
Yes. Correct?
I'm going to Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
If they're going to change the other two titles, you might as well change them all. The ones that are on the main show, you might as well change every single damn title and then go nuts with it. So I think they're going to go with Bray Wyatt. And also, if you notice that the new downloadable content is the Bray Wyatt content, I'm like, that.
Again,
It's got to be something like that.
why must we base what the fucking game does on who they put?
I'm only
I know,
basing it
I
on
know.
Becky Lynch. For this, I'm not basing downloadable content.
No.
I would not. I'm not going to go that far, but I will. I will say October.
There's also been that. There was also that leak a couple weeks ago. Connor brought up on his show. There was that leak of the title that they're reportedly making for Bray.
That wasn't real, by the way.
But man, I'm
Real?
tell you
No.
straight up, like it. What I'm saying makes no sense because Seth Rollins literally is a god and should lose to nobody.
He's Zeus.
Yeah, Trek,
Yeah,
the guy that.
huh?
Sorry, but Trek, the guy that put out that video of that belt is a guy who is a company that makes replica belts.
Yeah.
And that was just a concept he came up with.
Oh. Okay, well, I still think I'm still going with Bray Wyatt just to win.
So I'm just trying to piece it together in my mind. It's like, if Bray Wyatt loses, how is he going to lose? And if he's going to lose the same way that Brock did, without Brock's pedigree and being able to bounce back, it's a death sentence.
Mhm.
At the beginning of October, where they want to capitalize on Bray Wyatt, unless he continues to torment Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins wins somehow. I at this point in time, this match is a complete mystery to me.
Yep. No, I'm with you.
It's a mystery
We were
I never
saying
want to
that we
see,
were-
but it's there.
Bobbit?
We were saying it's gonna be Braun, but now that Braun is in the straight line with Tyson Fury, I don't think Braun's gonna get involved.
Want to bet? I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Bobbit, what about you?
I'm gonna go Bray Wyatt.
What about you?
I'm going with Seth because they're going to try and continue this.
I agree with Heather. I think Braun Strowman is going to get involved and it's going to begin no contest because they've done it before. That's the only way this match can end without anybody losing is a no contest. Or Braun Strowman is going. That doesn't mean that Braun Strowman is going to decimate anybody, but he is going to get involved somehow, and it's going to become a no contest.
How do you have a no contest in a
He
Hell in a
beats
Cell?
the shit out of both of them, and then
Like Brock did last year.
Okay, well, I refuse that idea.
I refuse it too, but I think that's what's going to happen.
I don't think so.
I don't think
That's the
either
only
one's-
way they can save themselves writing wise. But even though it's
I-
like Braun Strowman got beat though by Seth Rollins.
I understand that. They're going to do in a shitty way. They're going to do, by God, it's Kane with Braun Strowman. Except we already know that Braun Strowman is not, he's not debuting as a wrestler. We already know who he is. He's gonna rip the cage. He's gonna rip the doors off the cage. Exactly what he's gonna do.
So I'm not saying 100% this could happen, but imagine like a Hell in a Cell match ending. Not just a Hell in a Cell match that's taking place in the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view that's built on Hell in a Cell matches without feuds, ending with him coming out there and beating the living shit out of everybody and then just cheersing himself in the middle of the ring and it just goes off air. It's possible, but good fucking god! This whole fucking this match is gonna be a garbage pile.
It is.
No matter what happens, it's gonna be a fucking train wreck.
Because if Bray wins, Bray's dead. If Seth wins, Bray's dead.
Unless they continue to storyline somehow.
The only way that I think they can save themselves is by
It's not. Bray's dead regardless. In my mind.
True. But I think they prolong his death. They'll prolong his death if he wins, but they'll prolong his death without him losing and without him winning, therefore continuing the feud, and he'll win. When is Halloween? What day is Halloween?
The end of the month,
Thursday.
31st or something.
The Thursday?
No,
Yeah.
Crown Jewel's on Halloween.
Yep.
Oh, good God.
You go. You do it there, even though it's in Saudi
Yeah, it
Arabia.
is a Thursday. Never mind. So they're gonna have
Let's go finish our Halloween match and place that doesn't celebrate Halloween.
Let's do a House of Horrors. What?
Look at all the ghosts in the audience.
No.
No, those are just the women, son.
Oh no.
Oh, jeez.
I think they're going to do some fuckery where neither one. Which
Okay,
which
so
will
I'm
piss
going
me
to
off.
go with
Which will piss me the fuck off because it's at the referee's discretion. Fuck that shit.
I'm gonna actually agree with the fact that nobody wins this match. Just for the fact that I think that's the only way of salvaging this train wreck. And even though salvaging it is a term I use loosely, because the train is going to wreck, but you might save a couple people.
Yep. You're gonna save a couple of months, but he's gonna die. Bray Wyatt will go back to be Big King Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. He'll never exist again. Wouldn't that be the shits if Rambling Rabbit came out and cost Bray Wyatt because he keeps going?
I hope Bray Wyatt just comes out in the fucking sweater vest and just gets killed and it ends.
Right?
He comes out in a sweater vest, walks into the ring, shoots himself in the head, and that's the end of the match, folks.
Yeah. But there you go, folks. If there's any more matches, we'll be live on the show. We'll probably be live at 5:30 or 5:45, depending on how I feel tomorrow. I'm going to be watching the Packer game. Heather's going to have to remind me because I'll forget. So that being said, we're going to end it here. Is this a good place to end it?
Don't forget, if you need a used car, call Rusev.
Call Rusev.
So
1-800-CRUSH!
Right?
Machka.
What did you say?
Said Machka.
Whatever. Everybody have a great night. We will see you tomorrow night over on the Cole Bone Show, where we will do our live reactions to Hell in a Cell, and it is going to be hell watching Hell in a Cell.
It's gonna be a meltdown.
I might melt down. I might lose my shit because I just see a bunch of fucking
Greatness
and referee discretion going on in this fucking pay-per-view.
I hope it's Aubrey.
Oh my god!
She comes out doing Cirque du Soleil. I'm ready for my match.
That is another negative for AEW for me. Again, with her and the fucking reactions she gives when somebody hits somebody. I call her Tourette's girl or Jar Jar Binks without the ears. So
like she's putting on a stage performance while the match is going on. This is my monologue from Vagina Monologues. Also, this is a match between Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes.
Right. So that being said, everybody have a wonderful night, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Well, I'll talk to you later on today because it's past. So have a good night, guys. I love you, and we will talk to you later. Have a good night. Enjoy the fucking wrestling. Just enjoy it. That's all I can say. Even though sometimes they give us shit. Still, enjoy the fucking wrestling. Because it may not be here. It may not be here very, very much.